Okay, welcome everyone to the Pickens County Board of County Commissioners work session on Tuesday, December 14th. This is our last work session of the year, and so nice to see all of my colleagues here in the room. My name is Kelly McNicholas Curry. I'm your chair, and let's see, our first item today on the agenda is a discussion of our construction and demolition ordinance and an update from our solid waste center staff. And so I will go ahead and turn it over to our solid waste director, our renowned awarded solid waste director, Kathy Hall. Oh, let's see, we can't hear you in the room, Kathy. Hang on a sec. I think we have to hit a button.
Right. She's a celebrity now.
Yeah. No, Kathy, can you talk for us a minute? Let's see if we hear you. Usually it's on that one where John Peacock is messing around.
See if Michael can talk on a microphone.
No. Hold on a sec. Gosh. I know you guys can hear us because I could tell your reactions and each other.
Hear you.
All right, I think we got it.
There she is.
Can you hear us now?
Yes, we can. Thanks.
All right. So I'm Kathy Hall. I'm the Solid Waste Director for Pickens County. And I'm here with Michael Port, who is our Construction Demolition Diversion Specialist. So we're here today to give you an update on the Construction and Demolition Debris Diversion Program. So we, if you recall, the ordinance for this diversion ordinance was adopted back in April of 2020. And then went full implementation with all the Green Halo software and connections with ComDev the past fall, just a little over a year ago. So we are here just to give you an update on how it's going and kind of what we're looking at in the future. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Michael.
Thanks, Kathy, and thank you, BOCC, for having us. Let me make sure I can share my screen.
Oh, thank you.
Are you able to see my presentation?
We are.
All right, great. So thanks again for having us in today. As Kathy mentioned, the ordinance was passed in April of 2020, but it took about 6 months for it to fully go live, and we've now been a little over a year of full implementation of the program. So we came in actually in March of this year, and you all asked us to come back in later on to give more full information of, after having been live for a year. So that's why we're here today, to give you an update. So in today's presentation, I just want to first go over a quick overview of how our program works again, how the ordinance is set up, then provide an update on our education and outreach activities, show you some of our impact as far as the actual waste diversion that we've been able to achieve so far, and then finally reflect on how the program is working and also what we're thinking about doing next year and moving forward. So how the program works is based around waste diversion requirements that are linked to our building permits, and we have a deposit refund system where a contractor or a representative from the project needs to put down a deposit in order to get the permit issued, and then over the course of the project, they are complying with minimum waste diversion requirements. The way that the project team demonstrates their performance is through Green Halo, which is a waste tracking platform. And then at the end of the project, in order to apply for a refund, they have to submit a diversion report, which basically gives us all of the data on the materials that they've disposed of, recycled, or salvaged. And we have a county-wide data aggregation of that. So we get a lot of great data out of this program. And then we also tied in with the ordinance, but sort of unrelated to the deposit system, is our tiered pricing structure for construction and demolition debris that comes in here, which is our way of influencing projects from throughout the region. How the deposit works, it is equal to the estimated total tons of waste multiplied by the per ton rate. And right now that rate is set to $1,000 per ton. Later in the presentation, I'll reflect on that. But essentially I work with the contractor during permitting process to, look at the project scope. Is it a new construction? Is it a demolition? Is it a remodel? And we come up with an estimate of the total waste that's going to be generated from the project, and then multiply the tonnage of that by the $1,000 per ton. At the end of the project, in order to get a full refund of that deposit, they have to have diverted at least 25% of the total project-related debris by weight, and also separate all of our recoverable materials, which are essentially like required recyclables that need to be separated from the trash. And these are materials that we can process largely at the solid waste center. So we want to make sure that we're keeping those out of the landfill. In order to get a partial refund, that's half of the deposit returned. They need to get at least 20% waste diversion, but they may have had some of those recoverable materials sent to the trash. And then no refund is if they get less than 20% waste diversion rate.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
So is that meaning that they had to sort it and then they bring it to you, and that's how you decide what percent they've actually been able to divert?
Yeah, that's correct. So we don't do any sorting here at the solid waste center. So it needs to be separated at the job site before it comes to us, or pretty much any other facility, because they do have the ability to take materials elsewhere too. But most facilities that I'm aware of, it has to be in a separated load for them to be able to accept it.
And so that percent number is from the amount that they have brought to you? It's just
That is what, yeah, that's what they have, what's been tracked in Green Halo. So they're supposed to retain all of their receipts of where they're taking materials and what was the weight and the date, that basic information. And it's a percentage of the actual weight of stuff that has been recycled or reused.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to flag this for maybe further discussion. I don't necessarily agree with giving 50% of the deposit returned just if at least 20% of total debris is diverted from trash. I think we might want to up that ante a little more. Because 50% is a significant percentage. So just for further discussion.
Yep,
That's a
absolutely.
good point.
Yes, we weren't very aggressive and when we
Yeah,
first
I think it's time to be a
adopted
little
this, right?
more robust.
Great.
Yeah, well.
We can reflect on it later, but I will say that most projects, at least the ones that have reported and finished thus far, have been able to pretty easily meet the 25%. So that is something that over time we want to probably ratchet these numbers up to kind of increase the performance.
I think Greg has a question also.
Yeah, if this is the time for it, I was just trying to think, and I've been thinking about this just as I've been passing by the, what was the lodge? The
Molly Gibson.
The Molly Gibson Lodge that was just torn down. It looks like they just went in and shredded it. They shredded everything, and so it was a giant pile of chaff that I guess is going to get trucked out to the landfill. But because it's all mixed together, I don't know what it qualifies for. So I guess my question is, how does this pencil out for a contractor? If they have $1,000 per ton cost times the number of tons to get to their refund, which is, the goal is to get whatever big is refund, I guess, assume, how does that pencil out? Is that a greater or equal deterrent or incentive of the cost of deconstruction or other options they might have, like trucking it to South Canyon? Or have we really looked at the analysis here to find out, are they actually incentivized to any great extent to deconstruct rather than just shred it all into a big pile of trash that goes to the landfill?
Sure. Would you like some kind of response from me on that?
Yeah, of course.
Great.
Please. But it's something to talk about. I don't know. I don't expect an answer right
Be
now.
creative here.
I'm just trying to think of when, when a contractor's penciling, it's all going to become an economic decision, right?
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't know if that was like a rhetorical, let's talk.
Most of my questions are kind of ambiguous. Sorry.
No, that's okay. So that level of analysis, I will say we haven't gotten that far yet, especially because we are still working with limited data, and I've been on the job for a year, still working on building those relationships with contractors that would be willing to, share that analysis. What was their actual, financial situation of planning that out. But I will say that is something that I want to do. We need to see whether that what the trade-off is for them. But then as far as the Molly Gibson, we actually, when they're shredding the material, we have spoken with the contractor doing that, and we basically have them sign something that they've separated out all those recoverable materials that we can recycle at the solid waste center here, and then they are just shredding what would have ended up in landfill anyways, and then we use that as cover material, so that actually is a beneficial use for us here at the solid waste center. So that's something that we've discussed with those contractors when they are shredding the material.
Okay, great. Yeah, well, that's encouraging, and I think it would be great to have some input from the construction community, and maybe we can find some friendly contractors who would share with us their thought process as they look at how to take a building down. But thank you. That's good to know.
Do you have a
Absolutely.
question?
No,
Michael, I
it's not
guess I
really a
just-
question. I was just worried about what's in that shredded material that's now sitting out to exposed air. I assume it's things like nasty plastics, and I don't know. I'm a little concerned about that. If you're using it to surface something, I'm a little worried about the off gases and stuff. What kinds of materials tend to be in that stuff?
That would primarily be like painted lumber, insulation, what else? Yeah, drywall, gypsum. But this is mixed. We do have the approval from the state to be able to do that, and we are within our air quality and everything. We make sure that we're within those standards, of course.
Carpeting?
Carpeting would be one of them as well. But I think in the case of the Molly Gibson, like they had stripped everything out, or stripped a lot of it out, and then it was just sort of the framing lumber and stuff that was remaining that they shredded.
Michael, let
great.
me ask a question, because since it's in the city, was that more of a collaborative conversation? Because we don't really have a connection to our, obviously our building permitting software in the county. So we don't have an authority to
that's
tell
right.
them what to do.
Yeah, that's right. So that's more of a collaboration.
Okay.
The demo contractor has a good relationship with us. They reach out when they have these projects.
That's great.
And it's a benefit to them as well as us when they're able to do that, because they can more efficiently get the material out of there. They do less truckloads, and then because we have a use for that, we actually give a bit of a discount on that.
I see, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
We should probably move on, because we've hijacked your presentation here.
That's okay. I love questions. I'm glad you guys are interested in it. You're all familiar with our tiered pricing because we were just in for budgeting. But again, how this kind of works is we track every project that comes in based on the project name or address that's given to us at the scale. And so we try and keep a tab on how much trash they've brought into us over time. So for the first 30 tons of trash that's brought in, we charge $93.75 per ton. For the next 30, it's $113.75 per ton. And if it's over 61 tons, we charge $133.75. And these prices apply to any project bringing material to us, whether it's from within or outside of the county. And then also our tier 4, which is our mixed load rate. We have a premium. Basically, if a load is containing trash and anything that we could have recycled here, which is $60 greater, or this year has been $60 greater than the baseline tier 1 price. So in 2021, just from the extra $60 on those tier 4, we actually raised over $1 million of revenue just from that extra $60. And the goal with this was put higher prices for trash, lower the rates for recyclables, to try and incentivize, provide more of that economic incentive to separate material. But we actually haven't seen really any significant change in the ratio of, just trash loads compared to the mixed loads. So what we're doing next year, and based on your recommendations for when we went in for budget, was to actually raise that tier 4 price to $100 above the tier 1. So that price, that rate is going up to $198.25 per ton in 2022, and we'll see if that larger amount has an impact of the loads coming. So now talking about what we've actually done over the last year, we have 140 permitted projects enrolled in the program so far. I will say that the anecdotal feedback that we've gotten about the program has so far been positive. Talking with architects, contractors, and those involved in the projects, they're just generally appreciative that the county is putting an emphasis and providing assistance to help them with this area. We take a hands-on approach to communicating with project teams throughout permitting and construction phases, and we want to emphasize educating on proper waste management practices. So what we do as far as education and outreach includes job site visits, where I just go meet with the contractor, go see how they're implementing their waste management plan, offering quarterly webinars for new participants in the program, make sure that they understand how it works, putting together resources and tools on our Solid Waste Center website that they can use to help with their planning or give them more knowledge about this area. And then what we plan to do more of, and what we did recently, is a 2-day deconstruction workshop. So in November, we brought a speaker from California named Ted Reif, who is an expert in deconstruction, which is an alternative to demolition, where you're methodically disassembling parts of the building to make sure that it can be reused or salvaged at a greater rate. And we had 30 attendees at that, people from around the industry in the Valley. So that was really successful. We want to do more of these kind of educational workshops.
Yeah, if they were deconstructing that marble floor there, I think we should have brought some of that home with us.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, that photo is of our site visit that we did. The interesting thing about that building is it was just a lot of brick and marble and stone and stuff that would be really hard to actually salvage, but it was all very recyclable, at least. So they would be able to recycle that stuff as well. And so Green Halo, as I mentioned, is our waste tracking platform. It's giving us a lot of great data, and also really helps us to administer this program. So far, we've had approximately 3,000 tons of material entered into the system from a number of different projects. And we're happy to show that based on those numbers, we're showing a 70% waste diversion rate, which is great, obviously really significantly above our minimum requirement, 25%. And so on the left-hand image, you can see just the breakdown of recycled, reused versus what's been disposed. And again, this system gives us really good analytical abilities that we didn't have before. As well, on the right side, just another example of the material that has been entered into this system. Almost half of what has been diverted weighs a lot is concrete. So, 40-50% is concrete, and then the remaining 20% is deconstructed and reused items, soil, land clearing debris, metals, things of that nature.
I think there may be some questions about reconciling the data. Do you want to ask those, Patty? Or?
Yeah, no, I'm good with tracking it now with more explanation.
I have a question then. Yes, I'm not sure who was first. Greg, then Steve.
Just looking at the composting component seems pretty low, and I was just wondering, is there room for, it seems like there's so much more that's compostable than any of us even think about. Are there opportunities there to increase that percentage? And is that something that's, it's a high energy dense material that should be valued pretty highly, I think. Just wondering.
Yeah, I mean, so really, I think it's a pretty small amount of the weight, when you think about the building projects, the green waste, the land clearing debris, that's actually compostable is a pretty, I think, small amount of a project, and it's not necessarily taking place on every project. But our tipping fees, if they're going to bring material to us, are in place such that they should already be separating whatever is compostable or that green material. So I haven't really noted that that there's a big gap in what we could be composting, like from building activities.
Got it. So wood waste, like organic materials in the construction, aren't really part of that.
Correct.
Okay.
So what it shows on this pie chart on the right is it would be clean wood on the top. So we have 34 tons of clean wood. That actually does go into our like wood chip mulch that we make, and is not composted.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Greg. Steve.
So I did some calculations here, and even at the $198 per ton for somebody who they're not deconstructing any, they could just tear the thing down. For a 61-ton project, they would only be paying a little over $12,000 versus little over $8,000 if they were doing the deconstruction. So they are saving a net of $4,000. Any company looking at the money thing, they're just going to demolish the whole thing and haul it to the landfill, because that would be the easiest and most economical thing for them to do. So I was trying to think of an incentive that would maybe catch people's attention. Now, our family has been starting to deconstruct a house that is scheduled to be demolished on another, someone's property that we know. They were going to deconstruct the whole thing this fall and wanted to start building their new house, but they can't get their building permit until next spring because of the backlog. Therefore, they're not even going to deconstruct the house now because they want to get credit for it's complicated. They want to get credit for their square footage, but they can't deconstruct the house until they get their building permit. So they're still going to do the deconstruction, but a really good incentive would be if someone did deconstruct a building that was going to be replaced, if they were put at the front of the line for getting a building permit so they could start their construction right away, that would be a huge incentive. And I think a lot of contractors and homeowners would go for that, because if they can start their project earlier, take advantage of, buying materials at a lower cost before inflation drives the price up higher, that sort of thing. That could be really attractive for people as an incentive, rather than saving $4,000, which I don't think that's a disincentive. when you look at it realistically.
That's a good point to bring up in our growth management discussion when we're looking at incentives.
Agreed.
Okay, and then I just have a question about sort of the overall numbers, I guess. So when we read in the AIS that there's over 28,000 tons of construction and demolition debris, for me, when I think of a ton, I think of an elephant. So that's like the equivalent of like 5,500 moderate-sized elephants going into our landfill every year, which is crazy. But then I hear you say that we have 3,000 tons in the program that are being tracked. So is that the totality of the 140 permits that are being tracked, or is that just the projects that have started? Or is the remainder of the 28,000 less the 3,000 all coming from the city, which would seem like a lot to me, or Snowmass Village?
Well, yeah, so the total construction and demo waste cited in the AIS is all of the construction material that's coming in. Because our program only applies to unincorporated Pittman County, we are only really impacting a fraction of the projects that are coming in. So, you know, it's probably about 10% of the total projects that are in our, you know, catchment that are under this program and having to meet these requirements.
Yeah, okay, thank you for clarifying that for me.
Yeah, that clarifies my question.
Yeah, Francie.
I'm just curious about what you do with all that concrete.
We crush it and make road base. We make like resell aggregate products, and we basically sell out every year of that stuff. We have a crusher come in every spring and process multiple different types of like road base and aggregate gravel.
That's awesome.
And I see that we're almost at 1:30, and so I guess I will jump ahead and make sure that I can talk about our per ton rate, because that was the big question last time we were here. So how effective is the $1,000 per ton that we've put in place? I will say that just to talk about this a bit more, our deposit refund scheme that we came up with was modeled after programs in other communities around the country. It's most common that programs charge deposits per square foot, for example, like 40 cents per square foot for new construction, rather than what we do, which is based on an estimated weight of trash. The other programs that we saw that do based on an estimate of weight of trash is they use typically $50 per ton. That's looking at some California communities. So obviously our rate is significantly higher than that. And I think that was intentional, that it was set as that before I was hired on. In most cases, also deposit programs have set a minimum and maximum rate. For example, one community has a minimum $1,000 for applicable project, a maximum residential deposit of $10,000, and a maximum commercial deposit of $30,000. We don't have a minimum or maximum in our ordinance. I guess we could technically put that in place if we thought it was necessary, but we don't have that now. So we've seen deposit amounts as low as $100 and up to $250,000 for a really large demo project. So that's just one difference or one noteworthy thing we have. I think the completed projects that we have so far point to our $1,000 rate being an effective incentive. If you look at the average waste diversion rate for projects, you take what was one project had 80%, one project had 30%, and you average that out, we get 53%, which is strong and above our minimum. However, the caveat is that we suspect that these initially completed projects are sort of early adopters. They were small duration or short duration, small projects that were making an effort to keep up with our program requirements. Whereas there are larger scale projects that still haven't finished up that we're lacking the data really to see whether it was effective for them, because there are projects that take 2-3 years. So we suspect that larger and longer term projects will probably come in at the final building review that didn't meet the conditions to receive a full refund, that still haven't submitted any of their materials in Green Halo. So we can only draw limited conclusions from those projects that are reporting right now. Just some high level statistics about the deposits. So we've actually collected $1.9 million in deposits, and that's over a little over 100 different permits. We have refunded $297,000 of that. One of the projects was over $100,000 deposit, so that really added on to this amount that we've refunded. Our average deposit for demolitions is $57,000. Our average deposit for new construction is $8,600. Our average deposit for remodels is $11,700. One thing that I look at is what is the deposit amount relative to the project valuation, and the average of that is 1.5%. So the average deposit is only 1% of the project valuation. So that's just I guess an interesting number to think about. And our most common refund amount has been 100%. So we've had 14 fully completed projects. 13 of those have received a full refund. The other one only received a partial refund because they had some of those recoverable materials sent to the landfill. So obviously this is like 10% of all the permits that are in the program so far, so again, caveat that we have limited data still. But
I think we have a question here, Michael.
Yep.
Yeah, this is just real quick, but so if we're collecting almost $2 million in deposits, I'm sure that's kept in a separate account, and I hope it's interest bearing, because some of these refunds would maybe be for 2 or 3 years out. And I think we should be looking at that, because that's a lot of money to be sitting in that we're holding.
Yeah, a lot of that.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Michael.
No, I was going to say, I'm not sure what maybe Kathy can answer what that aspect of if it's interest bearing or not, but I am aware that we kind of sits in a holding account with the building department. And then if we end up keeping any of the deposit, it gets put into our general fund at the solid waste center.
Right. Do you have anything else to add, John?
Yeah, I believe those funds need to be kept fairly fungible, so it'd be part of our banking relationship, and the return is going to be de minimis on that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I just think that's, $2 million sitting in an account for 3 years. Yeah.
Michael, I have a question. On the 14 projects, do you have a sense of what the mean is? Right? So the mean or the median, not just the 30 by the 80, but the, how close most of the projects are to 30 or 80?
What their waste diversion rate was? Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was the 53%. So of the completed projects.
I'm thinking of like the grouping.
So you're thinking, so I think, Mike, you may not have this at your fingertips. I think you're giving a average. I think what Kelly's trying to get at is, are there some that are doing a lot of diversion and some that are doing a little? What's the difference between the median number and the average number?
I see.
Yeah.
That may be something we need to bring back.
The low end to the high end.
Okay.
Yeah, I can pull that information. I don't have it like right at my fingertips, but there have been a couple of projects that were 80% and above, like 2 or 3 that were demos or remodels that had quite a lot of material, and then there's been quite a few smaller like remodels that maybe they got 30%, but they had a much lower amount of debris in total.
Thank you. I think Steve has a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was curious, what is the average weight of that's brought from a demolished house to the landfill? How many tons? I use the figure 61 tons, but I have no idea what does a house weigh?
Yeah, so I would say well, we would have to figure out what's like the average size of a single family home in the county. I don't know that off the top of my head either, but I would say that it's anywhere between 100 and 150 tons in total.
I think it's 5,200 square feet.
I think the average size was
Maybe 200.
2,867 or something like that, wasn't it, Suzanne?
It's about 5,000.
And
Maybe
I've
that
been-
was in our caucus area, I think, that 2,000.
All right, let's
And
keep
so-
moving. We're
Okay.
crunching into
In the
other
deep water.
time. Yeah.
All right, yep, this is our last slide. So future planning, just want to touch on what we're going to be doing next year and in moving into the future. So as you're all aware, we have our Motherlode Mercantile where we're hoping to open that in late summer, early fall of 2022, which will improve our ability to basically create another market if more projects are going to start deconstructing and they need an outlet for, salvaged building materials. That's one of the things that we want to use the Motherlode Mercantile for, have a home for those materials. What we're really excited about and hopefully bears fruit next year is regional collaboration on construction debris management. So this summer, we hosted a C&D roundtable, met with Aspen, Basalt, Snowmass, and Carbondale representatives to discuss, our shared issue of construction debris management. And one of the ideas that came out of that is the potential for these communities to adopt, mirror the ordinance that Pickens County has, and we could potentially partner with them. They could, use Green Halo. They can adopt this deposit refund scheme, and we could partner with them to help them manage it. And we think that would make sense from a regional standpoint, just for everyone to have the same waste diversion rules, and again, get at those projects that are outside of our jurisdiction right now. And so far we've been to Snowmass and Basalt councils to present this, and there at least was high level support for that idea and, talking about this issue. So next year we're going to be meeting with staff, hopefully to actually get more in detail on what that might look like. And also next summer, we'll be doing an updated waste composition study to see whether our actions are having an impact on the amount of recyclable materials that are ending up in the landfill. In our last one that we did in 2015, I believe, we found that a third of what was ending up in the landfill from construction could have actually been recycled. So we'll look at that again to see if we're having an impact on that. And then finally, this is more long-term, maybe 3 to 5 year period. We're looking at researching construction and demolition sorting operations. So having the ability to sort materials at our job site so that contractors could just put everything into one container. And that might be something useful, for Aspen where space is more limited. And especially if the landfill closes, we'll want to maximize what we are recycling on our site. So we're going to start going to some different facilities around the country, starting next year, to see how they operate and what we could potentially do in Pickens County. So that's it. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask.
Other last burning questions for Michael?
No, I'm interested in seeing what new data comes out when these projects start to wrap, so I think it'll give us a lot more insight.
Greg.
I just want to say it's really exciting. Michael, thank you, and Kathy, thank you. You have my full support, and this is great stuff, and this is important stuff. So thanks again.
Thank you.
All right, cheers.
All right,
Nice
thank
to
you.
see you guys, and we look forward to more progress on this front. I will say I do think that we have sort of on our ongoing joint city-county list of things to discuss, waste diversion is on that. So hopefully we'll have a good conversation there in the next year. Okay, thank you. See you.
Great,
Happy
thank you.
holidays.
You too.
All right, so we are going to move on to hear about X Games 2022 and the special event permit through ComDev, and so I'll invite folks up to present to us on that.
We thought we were getting you virtually. We get you in person.
I think the camera's on here.
Nice to see you. You too, Joy. It's always nice to see you.
Hi, Joey.
Ready for me to jump in?
Go for it,
Okay. X Games. Back's still going. Things looked a little different last year. They'll look a little different this year than, say, 2 years ago and all of the years prior to that. But still moving forward. Dates for 2022 are January 21st to 23rd. Obviously, I think you all, maybe almost all of you, maybe not Francie, know Vanessa, who's been with us a number of times on this. I'll just be really quick with sort of some of the highlights of, what's different this year. The venue will be totally fenced and separated from the ski co's operation, and that allows for the to assure that everyone associated with the event has to show proof of vaccination to get into the venue. There is one exception of that for younger children, but they have to be with a parent who's vaccinated. So that's all staff, athletes, vendors, spectators, anyone who's going in will have to show proof of vaccination. So let's see what else. I think the other big changes, no concerts associated with the event this year, no motorsports. So it's ski and snowboard events only. That's same as last year. But again, last year was televised only, no spectators. So spectators are coming back. And we're back to kind of the transportation scenario we've seen in the past with people parking at the park and ride and being shuttled or coming from Snowmass or Aspen on buses to get to the venue. Vanessa and her team have been working with Joey's crew and Aspen Ambulance and Public Health and all of the entities up front to make sure. So they've been on this for months at this point. We're just looking for any input from you all or questions you might have for the special event permit process. And really, I think that's about all the items I was going to raise. If you have any questions.
All right, we see questions. Let's go down the line here. Francie, then Patty.
I thought that in order for people to buy a lift ticket, they had to show proof of vaccination. Is that not true?
I guess you're not on your mic.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I thought that skiers had to show proof of vaccination
No.
just to go in the restaurants. On the mountain?
Sit down restaurants. I guess Joey's here, so I'll look at her to nod. Sit down restaurants on the mountain require proof of vaccination.
But not skiing.
Not skiing.
Patty.
What are we utilizing for proof of vaccination?
So we will. I'll definitely let you take
Whoever
that.
wants to jump in.
So guests will arrive and they can either have their physical card, a photo of their card, or if they use the Colorado app or the Clear app, we will accept that. But they have to have that along with a government-issued ID
To verify
to verify that that is who they are, and then they will be given a wristband that we ask that they wear for the duration of the event to save them time from having to wait in line potentially each day to get the wristband.
Okay, and, because, I know in some cases when the ski company was requiring their employees to show that they'd been vaccinated, sometimes it took a couple of days to vet what the evidence, the proof was. So this will be quicker, because I know some of the vaccination, proof of vaccinations were held up, so this is a simpler process. And what about, if we thought about, are there specific shuttles that are going to be going from, say, City of Aspen, specific shuttles just dedicated to going to X Games? I know people will get on the buttermilk bus or the snowmass bus coming into town or whatever, but because it kind of makes sense to vet as many as we can before they get on a shuttle, so they don't get to the event, not have proofs of vaccination, and they gotta get back on the bus.
So we'll have multiple locations where people can get their vaccines
Perfect.
proved. So similar to Jazz, we'll have a setup at the Park and Ride at Brush Creek where you can get that checked prior to getting on the bus if you want. We'll have a setup at Buttermilk. And then for select times, we will have a setup also in Aspen where
Perfect.
they can get that there in advance as well.
Oh, you're so far ahead of me. The other last question I have is, what about testing? Are you gonna be doing any testing of the X Games staff or the athletes or the athlete supports crews?
We will not be doing the same testing program that we did last year
Okay.
because everyone will need to show the vaccination.
So we're just gonna let that go. But if somebody was to have symptoms, we would provide access to one of our local testing sites.
So if any of our staff, athletes, anyone directly associated with the event, we will have a protocol in place where we will follow a similar protocol to last year where we have our on-site doctor. We will go through the symptom check, we will get a test, we will do the quarantine, the contact tracing, and work with the public health department to provide our list of contact traced for our staff, vendors, athletes, as well as support the person who is positive through the duration.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, and I'll just jump in and we'll keep going down around the table if that's okay. I'm wondering, people will be very excited to return in person as a spectator, but given that it is such a pared down number, how are you managing so we don't end up with 100,000 extra people here who will be turned away, and then how are you managing turning people away?
So similar to years past, because it is a destination location, we do somewhat naturally self-regulate based on housing accommodations in the valley where people can actually come and stay. We are the same weekend as Gay Ski Week, so we're working to promote, cross-promote with guests that are already in town. And so how we manage the venue is we work with public safety, our staff, and the Aspen Skiing Company to manage capacities and different sections of our venue. And so through the 21 years, I would like to say, we've never had to close down the venue per se. We've never had to stop shuttles. We've never had to shut it down because we've reached such a high capacity, because how our schedule historically runs with the competitions, there's a natural ebb and flow throughout the day. So people are coming for the day events and leaving to come into town, get food, and then the night crowd typically comes for the evening. So we're anticipating the same historical trajectory of crowd flow that we've had in years past.
Okay, but at a much more pared down number, right?
Yeah,
So how do fewer people know not to come, is what I'm wondering. I don't think I worded that correctly.
I mean,
How do more people know that there is less capacity for them if they expect to be here?
So we are having a similar capacity, if you will, for the competition sports that we have in play. It's the concert component that is not happening this year, which is a separate part of the venue that's not in play. So historically, we've seen people come just for the concerts, for example. And so that crowd might not be coming because there is no ticket, there is no concert to come and attend, where the guests that come for the disciplines and the sports, that's still happening.
They'll just know the next day to get there earlier.
So to
Next
follow up
questions.
on
Yeah.
yours, I think you're asking, what if 100,000 people show up?
Right.
I went to the Moab Folk Festival this fall, which we go every fall when it's held, and you had to purchase your tickets ahead of time, so you knew whether you were going to get it. I mean, you could. They were taking walk-ins too, but once they were full, that was it. No one else could get in. But then they also were doing a proof of vaccination, or if someone had COVID, a negative COVID test within 24 hours before, then they would let them in also. And they put a wristband on. So you only had to check in once for the COVID check, and it worked really nicely. Just was so smooth, and every other time you went in, you just, hold up your wrist so they could see that you had the wristband on. But I think what Kelly's asking is, do you have a reservation system? So if 20,000 people are allowed in, they have to sort of pre-register to have their name be one of the ones who's picked, or have a lottery system if there's way more people wanting to get in than are able to.
So we do not have a reservation system. We are not accepting negative tests, for example, so it's vaccine only. And similar plan to where you've got your wristband and you can show it at the fence line. There are 4 different areas that'll be fenced in for the venue. So if one of those does reach capacity, for example, we'll be directing crowds to the other 4 fenced in locations. And our venue footprint, where the majority of the crowd will be specific to the base of the competition courses, that is much larger than it has ever been in the past, because we aren't putting any activities over on Panda Peak. Panda Peak will remain open to the public. We're able to adjust where our fence line and the skier lane goes to give us a much larger crowd footprint of square footage to accommodate for capacity. We will be messaging on our social platforms if, for example, we are just busting at the seams and 100,000 people come, which again, historically, we've never had that in one rush of people, but if that does happen this year, we will be using all of our platforms to message that we are full and stay home and watch from, the bars and the restaurants in town, come and enjoy those locations if that is a new problem that we encounter this year.
And maybe I just need to ask a clarifying question. Is 8,500 similar to the past max capacities?
No, so it's all based on
there.
it's a square footage calculation that we work with public safety on, based on where we have footprints. And we've never had a true enclosed hard fence line in the past. We've always been able to flow around the whole mountain. So that number is based off of one of the locations that we have, because when the permit was submitted, we didn't have our full venue design. And so we'll now work with public safety to look at where our 4 locations are, what the square footage of that footprint is, to then determine how many people in each of those locations can be at any one given time. So that number is based on one period where that crowd might turn over 5 times throughout the day, for example.
Yeah, got it. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Greg?
Yeah, great, thank you. I was really gratified to see what I'd call improvements made this year. My question is, I think you've got a worldwide audience for the X Games of what, 500 million, or is it more than that? There's so many people watch this online, and I'm really grateful that you're being so careful regarding COVID. That's critical importance and has to be done, and I think it sounds good to me. We're also working on climate issues and carbon footprints, and I'm thinking about 7,000 people arriving to come to a free event. It's really not free if you look at the actual cost, the carbon footprint cost of each guy who drives his truck up from wherever he's coming from. And I'm just wondering, it must cost ESPN and the ski company, and I know it costs RAFTA and Pitkin County a lot of money to subsidize the buses and all the people coming here. And I'm not sure to what end. If you have such a huge global footprint on media and television, do you really need to have such a huge event with 7,000 people showing? I'm not convinced they all come and spend a lot of time in our hotels and restaurants, but they do cloud the highway and they take up a lot of bus room, and we end up paying for that. I think the cost of RAFTA, our subsidy to RAFTA, is about the equivalent, and our subsidy for overtime, I think we'll hear that perhaps from the Sheriff's Department at some point. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'm just wondering, would it ever make sense just to have a televised event with maybe 1,000 people or 500 invited guests rather than 7,000 people? And would you achieve the same goals at a much lower carbon footprint? And I know Ski Company is interested in that. I'd love to hear what ESPN thinks.
So I would say last year, for example, we did just have a televised event. We weren't open to the public. And I will say some of the feedback that we did receive is it was missed from the community, and people being able to go out and see their hometown heroes right in their backyard perform on their local half pipe, for example. There are reports of the economic impact that have been shown to benefit the community. We do, I feel, work closely with the Sheriff's Department, RAFTA, the skiing company, to make sure that there is a benefit to this community, that we are not showing up and just expecting a handout to come and do the event at the mountain. And I feel like we've demonstrated that, the amazing relationship we've had here in the community. It is our home. We feel that Aspen and Aspen Skiing Company and just the county and the community in general has been great partners. We are always open to suggestions if there's ways that it's feeling that the partnership isn't being reciprocated and that ways we can do better. But in terms of the spectator versus no spectator experience, I think last year we were given that opportunity to have an event without spectators, and I think it was missed from the athlete energy to the local energy here in the community not being felt that weekend also.
God, I understand that. Certainly a live event's really a lot of fun. I would then just ask that ESPN consider offsetting the carbon, footprint for every participant. Consider making that as an offset, and we can talk to you about that. But if we were putting that, maybe it ends up being a small fee that every participant pays. And that may be a way of helping track the number of people who come, and the ones who you're trying to reduce the size of your crowd anyway. That might be something that could do it. And it might be a matter of $2 or $3 or $10. It's affordable, but it would go a long way to helping us achieve our goals for climate, in our climate action plans. So I would just love to put that out there and see. Maybe Auden Schendler could weigh in on that one.
You mean people who are attending?
Yeah, if you're driving up from Grand Junction in your big truck to see the event, or flying in from somewhere, you could offset your carbon, and that it just starts getting people thinking about the consequences of what we do when we burn fuel.
Well, Greg, maybe they could have like a QRS code there of a banner that said if you'd like to help offset, click on this and donate, kind of like those vending machines they're having down at the train station in Denver.
The uptake on that is
something
about less than 1% usually.
Yeah, well, but I mean,
So-
that would be a start, kind of like we did at the airport, encouraging people to sign up when they fly to offset their carbon footprint.
I think it's worth the conversation, and I'd
It's
love to
something we should
invite
be thinking about, maybe
ESPN
not
to
this year,
come
but
up with
maybe
solutions
next.
like that. It'd be great if they had something they could claim as a green initiative here.
Yeah, and we definitely do have a very robust environmental program on site with all of the offsetting that we do through our partnership with MRI and the landfill offset that we have, that there are numbers and reports that we can get to you if you like. I'd be happy to look if you guys have a platform or a template you've used with other events for this to look at, that see if we can model that after something that you guys have worked with other events on, that we could look to incorporate that for.
Okay,
I
great.
think you'd be creating a new template for us.
Well, we do have things in place that might work.
Steve?
So I was pleased to see you weren't gonna have the motorized sports events this year. To me, that's always been, the noise of it is annoying when if you go in person and you wanna be over there watching the snowboarders or something, and then the snowmobile thing will be going on, making a huge amount of noise. So my question is, have you tracked how much of your viewers on television what's their preference? How many of them are tuned in to watch the snowmobile part versus the snowboarding part, or the skiing part? Have you done any polls to see what people really want to watch and how many show up to watch the different events?
There definitely are ratings that are taken into account. I don't have those numbers at this time of the breakdown for each show to provide to this group, unfortunately.
Yeah, because thinking of the people who live here, there's a low percentage of people who are into snowmobiles. When they use their snowmobiles, it's to go up powder skiing somewhere. There are skiers who use snowmobiles to get there by and large. there are some who are more, into the snowmobiling just for the snowmobiling sport. But everybody here is a skier or a snowboarder, and that's the ones I think are probably the most popular locally. But then I don't know the ones who come from other places to the X Games, what their preference is, because they come from all different, places around the country. Francie, I
Yeah.
drew a
Yes, I
rise
disagree
from
with you.
that.
I think there's lots and lots of snowboarders around. I mean, snowcatters, what is it called? Snowmobiling.
Snowmobilers, yes.
Snowmobiling around here, and I know several people who just absolutely love it, and I live near Sopris where it's insane, the snowmobiling. And I know lots of people who are wild about the snowmobile events. And, we go up to Shrine Mountain every year, and snowmobiling up there, as you can imagine, the top of Vail Pass is just
No, it's not so.
rampant.
Perfect candidate
When they
for
only had
Colorado
6 inches of
Rapids.
snow, they were up there, so I don't necessarily agree with you on that, but I wanted to have you talk about the swag bags. I would say that of all the things that happen at this event, to me, the most egregious environmental thing is the swag bags. Because I see all the kids coming back carrying these plastic bags and these plastic things in them, and so much of it goes in the trash. And so can you talk to me a little bit about the sort of culture around that? I know they look forward to getting them and stuff, but I'm just wondering, are they, is it a form of advertising for ESPN?
So a lot of our sponsors haven't done that for quite a while. Is there a specific one you have in mind? We do have gift bags for our athletes, but those historically are made out of recycled banners that would have been thrown in the trash. We work with some local agencies here, and they repurpose those and make them into bags that we give to our athletes, but our sponsors haven't given out.
So you haven't done those little bags for
For
a
many
little
years,
while?
and it's been a great disappointment to a lot of young
Yeah.
children.
Yes, exactly. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you for that.
Yes.
I'll just pick up on Greg's thread a little bit. I think one of the difficult things for me about having the timing of this conversation is always so close to the event. So it's just, from where I sit, it's really hard to feel like I can have any meaningful impact in it. So I don't know if there's an opportunity to have a planning discussion earlier in the year. And I think for me, what I would want that to involve around is, how can we bring the partners to the table to make ESPN X Games the first, carbon-free, or carbon neutral kind of big game sporting event, as an example for other sporting events to look to. And I think that would, for us, really capture our community values and, just such an opportunity for a global stage to see how that is possible. And, we can't do that now. I mean, so many decisions, have been made for the event, already for next year. But maybe in future events, that's something that we could, figure out how we can work with ESPN to, set that as a goal and try and get close to that. Would be something, I don't know, I think would alleviate some of the tension with such a big event that's happening in town.
And we're happy to do that, and just historically, that happened a long time ago. And then per direction from the county, that wasn't needed anymore. And so then this model was transitioned to. So if the board feels that that's something you guys would like to shift back to, we're available at any time to take the direction from the special event department and meet with the board to give any input.
Well, and I'm a new member, and Patty's a long.
Yeah,
member,
I
so
can
she
say this
have
is a
some
huge improvement.
historic-
Sometimes this came to us the week before. So
Right.
and then we started doing it way back, and then the board did say, well, we're kind of, good with a lot of this, but I think the discussion should probably be had. How many more years do we have on the contract?
3, Joey?
So there are some opportunities. So
3.
this year included in that, so we have 2 after this? So we do have some possibilities maybe this summer, we can set some agenda time and you can either Zoom into us and we can get the board to have a preliminary discussion as far as carbon offset ideas and thoughts and give us time to maybe craft something for next year's event. But I think, trying to get the word out there sooner than later is a great idea.
Yeah, and we would just ask that if it's new things that are being implemented for us, that it's that we're just not singled out as the one
Right.
big event that's happening here.
Yeah,
that
we
it's-
want to have a fairness
that there's
and
consistency.
quality issue here. We want to make sure it's equal. And you know, if anything, the food and wine, they gave it a lot of swag, food and wine. And not just liquor and yummy chocolate, but a lot of swag that does go in the trash. But
They do require totally recyclable containers and everything, because I was a
yeah, no,
presenter,
but that,
so-
you know, but that's different than kind of a carbon offset, because trust me, a lot of those people don't drive their truck from Grand Junction to come to Food and Wine. They fly in on their private jets, so we might have a bigger carbon footprint issue to solve there. But it's a good idea. We can come up with a template that we can apply to all of our major events or even our small ones.
And whatever, you know, the board requests, I'm here, I live here, I'm
We know
local.
where to find you.
So you know where to find me, exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Could I just,
Yeah,
yeah, I
please.
appreciate that. I think it's important that we have a policy that's going to be broadly covering the idea. But I actually have to say, I'm looking for initiative on the part of the applicant. I'm looking for you coming to us to say, here's what we think is important, and here's what we're going to do, rather than to say, well, we'll just follow your rules if you bring them to us. There's, you see a difference there? It makes me, I'm looking for a level of commitment beyond just following the rules. So just for food for thought.
And again, I'm happy to sit down and go over our waste diversion plan and what we've done over the years
Right.
as an event, what we do with our spectators, what we do with requiring all the
The food stuff. I'm
concessions on
familiar
site to
with it.
have recycled and compostable material for the food and beverage, as well as, the hydration stations we provide so they can fill their
Right.
containers and not have plastic
Yeah,
bottles and
I'm
things like
familiar with that, and I've seen it over the years. I have to say, I applaud, you've done some groundbreaking work along those lines. So I do applaud that, and, want to acknowledge that X Games has been a good partner in that way.
I think it's a collaborative effort. I think we should start the discussion with exchanging ideas and see where we can work on this together, and then, again, use that as a template for other events. And I don't think it should be totally at the expense of X Games and ESPN. I think it's maybe something that we need to sit down and talk about as a board, but we think that we should expect out of these big events, and then at least have that out there.
I think it would be great if ESPN touted its own achievements as well, like if just the five of us and John, and Suzanne, the people who give you the permits and stuff, if we were more aware of the work that ESPN is doing, which I'm sure is quite plentiful, knowing how cutting edge ESPN can be, then I think we could, when we put out all the information about the X Games everywhere where it's put out, we could include some of that information that would help ESPN and help the image of the X Games for local people and stuff, I think.
And we can get you guys copies of our press releases that do have specific information.
I think that'd be
regarding
great. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Great.
There's a lot to learn. There are a lot of X Games behind us.
All right, so ultimately ComDev approves this permit, and we've given some input and feedback. Is there other input and feedback?
Yeah, thanks for having the conversation with us.
Absolutely.
I don't want to appear too hard, but you can tell that it's an important issue among us all.
And I will not be coming out with a birthday cake this year.
That will be missed. Yeah, no,
I'm not-
again, thank you. Just we, as I mentioned, we call this home. We're happy to be here. And we're open for a partnership and collaboration as we
Good
hope
to
to
see
be
you.
here many years.
One last thought, Kelly.
Sure, Steve.
We usually watch the X Games on television, but occasionally we have gone in person. And I'm really glad you're having some crowd there this year. There's nothing more exciting than to be up on the half pipe somewhere and have the, just a few feet away from you, people doing these amazing things. It's a whole different element than watching it on television. If you were right there in person and feeling the energy of the crowd and everything. So I'm glad you're having, being able to have the public come again this year.
Yeah, the athletes are looking forward to getting that energy back from the crowd as
I'm
well.
sure.
Yes.
Kelly, could I please make a 30-second comment?
Yeah, come on up.
Uh-oh.
Sheriff
Now
Joe
he's gonna
DeSalvo.
let us have
We're
it.
timing him.
I'm Joe DeSalvo, Lincoln County Sheriff. This is our 20th year together, right?
This is my
21st.
21st year together. So just to answer some of the questions you asked, we are in the planning process early. I mean, some of the things that Vanessa told us today, we knew in the summertime. So I think you're leaning, I assume you'd like to lean on staff to do some of your work so they don't have to come to you every week or Suzanne every week. So they are in touch with us. 20-year partnership, it's always been raising the bar every year. I think they are probably the gold standard for events that we should hold other events to, if that makes any sense. A lot of these people have grown to be my friend and my family. Vanessa's one of them over 20 years. I trust them implicitly. Whenever something's been thrown at the last minute as a big red flag, it's usually not their fault. It has something to do with weather or a performer or something like that. So we do vet this along the way. If you'd like, we can update the board with those things through an email with the things that Vanessa wants us to get out there. I think it's irresponsible to release the name of an artist in June or July when they might know. So I'm comfortable with them, but if you need more information, please let Alex or I know, and we'll keep you posted along the way. But they've been great partners and probably the bar for Jazz Aspen and Food and Wine and the rest of the people. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Joey.
I have a question for you, Joey, and for Alex. What are we setting up at Mountain Rescue this year? Nothing?
This year, we are pretty much doing what we did last year. We'll have the Pickens County IMT on a standby basis. The crowds are pretty modest. We're not spending as much time on venue as we had in the past because of the modest-sized crowds, and frankly, we have other things we want to be doing, which we learned that the venue's not the problem, it's what happens outside the venue is
Right,
the
right.
biggest threat to public safety.
What is?
What happens
The
outside
events
the building?
outside the event, when
Yeah.
people leave.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As
I
the
was
app-
asking just because it's a great opportunity for members of the board who have never actually been inside the incident
Yeah,
command.
we,
to see
unless
what's
there's a
happening, but-
reason that won't be set up, we do have an incident command. Everybody's ready to go if we need to go. If
Right,
God
like we did
forbid
last year.
But, I mean, weather is usually the thing that
Yeah.
really throws a monkey wrench
Okay.
in the
I
whole
was just
event.
trying to get a educational experience for the board that hasn't been in that room and seen that action, because it's pretty awesome.
Well, I hope Francie never sees it, because when that room's open, there's a problem.
That's why X Games is always a perfect tabletop,
Yeah,
in-person,
exactly.
live experience. So.
Thank you.
I'd be okay with that. Never seeing it.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Joey.
All right, last burning thoughts. All right, thank you, and we
Thank
do look
you.
forward to
And it's nice to
all
see
the
you.
collaboration from the past and future.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks for
you.
coming in, thanks for hanging in
Happy
there with us.
holidays.
Nice to meet you, Vanessa.
Love your jacket, by the way.
I know.
Okay,
Thanks, Suzanne.
That was
Next.
fun yesterday.
hi Joey, nice to see you. Happy holidays. All right, next item is a discussion about an emergency resolution of the BOCC authorizing the chair to sign an airport rescue grant agreement with the FAA for operation expenses and debt service payment. This sounds familiar.
Yeah, no, we don't want any money. We don't want their money.
All right. Hi, Dan. Dan Bartholomew is with us. He is the director of the Aspen-Pickens County Airport.
Well, good afternoon. Yes, this should sound familiar. This is the third in a list of grants from the FAA. The county has been asked to accept and accepted two so far. So today we're bringing forward to you an emergency resolution to accept an additional airport rescue grant with the Federal Aviation Administration. We applied for this grant in July, and just recently, in late November, this grant was accepted, or approved, I should say, by the FAA for our acceptance. The reason this is an emergency resolution is because we have till the end of this year to return our acceptance or denial of this grant to the FAA if we wish to receive it. This grant is in the amount of $3,901,078. And as of yet, staff does not have any recommendations for the actual use of these funds. We have up to 4 years from the acceptance of this grant to use these funds. However, these are slated towards the fight of, the COVID pathogens at the airport facility. And so as far as the recommendations go, they'll come along those lines. We just wanted to bring this forward to you for discussion and to recommend to bring it forward to tomorrow's December 15th meeting for a first reading at the regular board meeting.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Let's see, questions for Dan. Patty?
Yeah, Dan, thank you. I don't think that, well, at least I can't speak for the whole board, but I don't think we mind when you ask us to accept money, especially when there's no matching funds required. And I also have to make a comment. You didn't wear a tie today, and it looks great.
Well, thank you.
Dan, are we successfully spending all this money on the prevention of the COVID pathogen at the airport? Spread of the pathogen?
So far, we've been pretty good. We haven't drawn down a significant amount of these grants yet, but we can always, refund ourselves for anything we spend on these. And that's including anything from, disinfectants all the way to staffing costs. So it's a pretty wide, we're given a fair amount of latitude on what we can spend this money on at the airport.
Okay. And are there, I can't remember what we did last year. I didn't fly anywhere. Did we create additional spaces for social distancing and move the baggage and all that kind of stuff?
Put in a new tent outside for baggage and move the administrative offices.
Yeah, it may not be a totally fair question for Dan, because I think
that's
you
true.
weren't here for all of that. Yeah, but last year we did close a gate. We had expanded seating areas. Previously we had put in the tent to be able to spread out baggage. It is a real challenge still to achieve social distancing in a facility of that size. With the number of employments, even reduced employments that we saw last year. We did hand out, and Dan, you may have this, I want to say is 30,000 masks. We've handed out a lot of masks. I know.
It was more than that, actually.
It might be more than that. Do you know the number off the top, Dan or Rich?
Rich probably knows.
I don't. No, I'm sorry, I do not. But we have received additional masks for this year. So.
The last count I remember, we were over 40,000, John.
40,000, thank you.
And Kelly, can I just?
Yes, go ahead, Pam.
I'm going to be working with staff hopefully tomorrow to kind of re-script that public service announcement regarding welcome to Aspen and here's our COVID information. So I think we need to kind of rework that wording, get the message out there, but I think there's just some more, I'd be more comfortable with some changes in language, and I'll be working on that just to give you guys a heads up.
Patty Clapper does not like my
Grand
recording.
Junction.
It's on the record.
Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead, Rich.
I haven't heard your recording.
I was just going to mention that Grand Junction was actually Aspen was looked at heavily when we started instituting these COVID changes. The FAA turned to us, TSA was looking at all the changes that we were making. We've got a document that we put together that we'd be happy to share with the board that covers everything. It's 2 pages worth. I mean, a lot of changes that we did make.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rich. Other questions? Steve?
Well, this might be a question more for Rich and John than Dan, but I'm wondering if there are any practices that we were doing at the airport that we found out to be the most effective, or ones that were not effective and we quit doing them.
Ooh, that's a good question, Steve. I don't know that we have the longitudinal data yet to really know. I think what is probably working at the airport is what we're generally seeing working in the community. Continuing to be on indoor masking for employees and guests coming in, particularly when folks are in close quarters. I know we have been encouraging employees at the airport, and I believe SkyWest to get vaccinated also. We did a walk around the other day, and the masking compliance was really good in the airport. Rich, I think there were some additional cleaning, fogging, sterilization protocols. I don't know if we have any data that would support the effectiveness, but we know that it helps reduce the prevalence on the surfaces and such. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. I was buying you time, Rich.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. Probably that is the one thing that we have backed off on is the fogging that we were doing out there, but it was based on numbers. And I don't know, Dan, if that's something that we need to look at again with our staff, is bringing that back, because I think Thursday, the numbers creep back up again.
Right.
We start getting busy again, so it may be something we bring in. But, you know, Steve, to your point, John's right. I don't think we felt there was something we were doing that wasn't being effective. We were thinking it all worked together. So we were very confident in the safety and the cleanliness of our terminal, both in the arriving and departing passenger areas.
Numbers were terrible.
Recently, there was the map showing the status of COVID in all the 3,000 some odd counties in the whole United States. And in the state of Colorado and in a lot of this area of the country, it was bright red except for two little dots of different colors. And one was Pitkin County and one was Hinsdale
It
County.
wasn't Mineral, it was Hinsdale. You misled me.
And my wife said, well, if Pitkin County's doing so well, why do you still have an indoor mask order?
Yeah, that's what
And I
wondering.
told her we are doing, the reason we have those low numbers is we have the indoor mask order and people are following it very well here. People have been done a good job in Pitkin County, and I think that's why we had a lower incidence rate. And that might be something that at the airport, as people are arriving, we could have, kind of highlight that, maybe show that, show the map of all the red, and then here's Pitkin County doing a better job than, now that could backfire. People might think, well, it's a lower incidence rate, so they drop their guard. But
Instead of terrifying
we'd have to
them
do the
like we did.
messaging right
That's what the
to
message
have
they
it be
wanted me to put at
effective.
the airport.
I love that you brought that up, because that was a great graphic, that picture of the entire United States, then Colorado, with our being one notch better than everybody else in terms of our compliance. But when the traffic and the tourists start arriving, that game could change completely in another week. So let's enjoy what we've done so far, but it is, as the financial firms say, it's no indication of future performance.
Okay, so we want the money and we hope to use it.
Just cut to the chase there, Kelly.
Any other questions and thoughts? I'm not seeing any, so Dan, we'll see this tomorrow for emergency reading, right? Okay,
Absolutely sounds good.
okay, thanks so much. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
All right, let's look at future agendas.
Yeah, and just a couple of things I wanted to highlight. Patty caught me this morning on some additions that we haven't probably vetted as thoroughly, and I think based on the questions Patty had for me, probably require some further explanation. And so right now we have the board's retreat scheduled for, I believe it is February. We've set aside the second and third, and we still need to talk about what the specific agenda for the retreat is going to be, and the conversations that we want to have. However, in order to preserve as much time for the board, for you to have conversations with each other, oftentimes leading up to the retreat, I feel, fairly compelled to give a lot of updates. And we either spend some of the retreat time doing that, or we put about 300 pages of information in your packet and hope that you've reviewed it before the retreat. And so this year, we're teeing up just basically 90-minute work sessions to go over some fact-based, general fact-based items. So I'm terrible with my naming conventions. So for example, I think the first one in January is what we're calling an environmental scan. What that really is demographics info. So looking at bringing Gabe Preston in, who many of you have seen before. He's been tracking socioeconomic data for us throughout the pandemic to try and put a little bit more story and narrative to what are we seeing in the data, what's changing in our community. We're going to be reaching out to the state demographer to also be part of that work session to just talk about what are we seeing in terms of changes in demographics and such, so that you have some of this baseline information. So there's going to be a series of work sessions that we propose along these lines. So socioeconomic information, we're going to be presenting the results of the citizen attitude and employee surveys. We're going to be putting together a general update of major initiatives and status in the organization, so that you have all of this going into the retreat, and you all are freed up to use that time to talk more fluidly about your priorities, and frankly, where we are investing our energy and time as staff is where you want us to be, given all the disruptive change that we've seen over the last 18 months. So we wanted to get those on the books to reserve time to have that type of background information. And I think it may have come across as policy discussions in those areas. The intent was really to use that time so that you could get just some general background data before we go into the retreat.
So,
Ahead of the retreat? That meeting's
Yes,
ahead of the retreat.
ahead of the
there's
retreat.
three
So-
90-minute sessions, and I asked John because it kind of looked like we were having a pre-retreat retreat before the retreat. So I wanted to clarify that. And the other thing I want to ask the board, if they would do sometime over the holidays or sometime in the first of the year, if they would send to John a list of some of the priority topics like airport or jail. And so we have some idea where we might want to focus our discussions and how we can prioritize the use of staff time, our time, funding, et cetera, coming into the year. Something we haven't thought about that we might want to think about as part of the retreat when we're kind of getting a plan going for next year. So if the board can start thinking about that and send a list to John, we can start compiling it and see where we have similar ideas and where we have ideas, again, that we haven't thought about. Like Kelly, what did you call that? Something funny like the city was doing. You see some projects that were, you had a great word for it. And
Yeah, I know exactly what you're referring to.
Yeah.
It was
It
about the
was-
things that we don't want to forget.
Yeah, it wasn't like visionary. It was something that,
yeah.
something that we maybe want to
Far-reaching,
focus
or-
on. Yeah.
There's something about it.
Yeah, you used a great word.
Yeah.
Let me know
I
when
must
you
have been
remember
less
it.
tired when I used it.
Can I just ask a little bit more about Gabe? What's Gabe's order of work is really the demographic analysis of how our population has changed and since he last reported, or just through the pandemic? And the reason I'm asking is I think I keep feeling this need for demographic info is great and important, and then along with it like an economic. I keep wondering, like, what are the economic consequences of various programs we have? What are the unintended consequences of everything that everybody does?
You
in
mean
this
like
valley?
how the mountain migration and the mountain migrants are
there's-
affecting our?
That could be part of it. Also, just like I'm still trying to wrestle what the value of TDRs. TDRs are like a currency.
But aren't we
And,
going to do
you know,
this in the
so-
future, not right now? Isn't
I'm
that what we're
just
supposed to
wondering
be
what
writing
Gabe's
to?
scope of work is, and if that's
Yeah,
kind of, if
so
we're going to go that far.
It's not going into that level of detail, Greg. It'd be looking more at longitudinally how have indicators of economic activity changed over the past year and a half, 2 years, or even longer runs, so that you can see, changes in some indicators are going to be taxation indicators, other indicators are going to be cost, consumption indicators around utilities, and trying to draw a story about what does that mean?
Right, population
What's
change.
happening with what we know about short-term rentals and availability and bookings and those sorts of things. So a lot-
Second home occupancy, for instance.
yeah, those sorts of things. So it's going to be probably bigger picture than diving into a specific program, which would be a whole different scope and probably exceed the 90 minutes. And
No doubt.
yeah, you'd go deep. So we're probably going to go. My recommendation to the board is to go, a few inches deep, but go broad in terms of what the indicators are. And then you all can explore what that means from a policymaker perspective.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
So anyway, I apologize if that came across, that was a surprise to y'all, but, and if you don't want that type of background coming in, that's fine, because that's a lot of work for staff, so we're happy to back up on that, but I wanted to try doing it in work sessions and leaving as much time for the board, for you all to interact on policies and priorities, which I think we haven't had as much.
Yeah,
time
and
the past
I think a
couple
lot of the
years.
information you want to bring forward to us is stuff that you usually put in the binder, and how have we actually utilized that information in the past? Have we all read it and, picked it apart before the retreat? So I think it's a great way to better utilize our time at the retreat to get us actually moving forward in
And
2022.
we'll still build a binder. We're anticipating building the binder with that same
knew it.
information, but we
I-
will have talked about it and hopefully processed it.
We
a
do
little bit.
like those 3-ring binders. I do.
And, the only other thing is right now we're on the 2nd and 3rd. I did want to check in and make sure those dates still worked. I think the next logical dates, given our regular meeting agenda, would be the 16th and 17th. And
I'll be out of town.
You're out of town. Okay. So that's probably why we were
Not
at
a
the
great
2nd and
week for
3rd.
me either.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we're booking it for the 2nd and 3rd, and we'll just have to work around anybody's agenda items, because Charlotte needs to start getting a place that's appropriate and affordable. And spacious.
What about, I forget his name, the Bayou place up in Thomasville?
We are not going up to those little cabins in Thomasville. 'cause they
Well,
don't
you
fit.
don't go into the little cabin, you go into the main building.
I
You're
don't know
not
if there's
gonna
enough
go-
space in with staff.
And
kind
why
of
are you
line.
speaking for everybody?
Because you were speaking for everybody.
I was
saying you're
suggesting that as a possibility.
Okay, I am not suggesting that as a possibility, but I thank you for this suggestion.
You're not welcome.
I think it
Well-
sounds quaint. I've been meaning to get up there.
We'll
but-
come back and try and find time to speak more
just looked
specifically.
down
We
the front
typically
end.
try and develop a draft agenda and location and run through that with the board. And like I said, I think the goal this year, unless you all feel differently, is to really have more time for you to interact on priorities than maybe we've had in the last couple retreats.
Sounds great.
That's all I've got.
I
on
have a
future
question.
Other
agendas.
Just
future
just
agenda
about
input.
today's meeting.
Sure, yes. Frankie.
Does anybody have an estimate for what time we'll be done? I'm just trying to communicate with my corporal.
Well,
I
let's
know it
see.
says 4:15, but,
We, I think, are on, or we're early,
yeah.
so we could end early. And it just depends on how long of a break folks would like. Steve,
So I have one other future
No.
agenda.
Can we-
I can't figure out.
your mic, Steve.
I can't figure out from the calendar when we officially appoint the new chair and vice chair. Because we're talking about it on January 4th in the work session.
We're
But then we don't have a regular meeting till January 15th.
And
But
that
it's
is-
not on that future agenda
January
to,
12th, right?
and usually we would do it like on the, it would have been on January 5th, like right after we do the work session, the next day, then we would have a meeting, and that would be when we do the transition. But
Our regular meeting's not till the 12th, and we have to adopt it at a regular meeting.
So typically what we do is the first regular meeting of the year, and so sometimes that's falling earlier, and sometimes, in this case, it's falling the second week. Now, Kelly could make the case that we should have a special meeting if she wants to
But
be
she-
done with her chair duties a little earlier, but,
So then,
so
it-
we'll put that on for the 12th.
so it's not on there yet, but
Yeah.
it needs to be on for the 12th. Okay.
Yep.
So think about what you like doing and what you want to give up or pass up.
This is Kelly's chance to do a power grab and be like John Martin and be the commissioner forever, the chairman forever.
I don't think you're gonna talk her into that.
Yeah, that,
I've
I don't know if
tried.
That's a friendly motion. Okay, so 4 o'clock, Francie, we think we can finish up here?
Yeah,
Sound good
it
to you?
looks like we're half an hour ahead, so I
Yeah,
was hoping
we'll
maybe
just keep
3:30,
moving.
45 or 4.
Yeah.
It's fine if I take the bus, I don't care, I'm fine either way.
Okay.
As the corporal, I'll take the bus, not a problem.
All right, well, I know I have plenty to do outside of this meeting as well, so if we can give it quality and move quickly, we
I
will.
mean, I'd be willing to skip the break, we had a 2-hour lunch.
Yeah, I'm good to go.
Okay. Anyone else need a break? You okay? Everybody good? Okay, so no more future agenda items. Let's go ahead and move to open discussion. John, besides the listed ones we have here, which I think we will have some presenters.
Yeah, so only other item I wanted to hit, and we'll get to those. Healthy Rivers and Streams is still accepting applications through December 22nd.
For the staff position.
No, for the.
No,
For the
for the
board.
board.
Filled.
So we actually did end up hiring Lisa Tasker as
Oh,
our
no
new
kidding.
admin specialist. So that,
Awesome.
yeah. Kristen Neff is interested and was interviewed on September 14th, which is going quite a ways back now. And so the board, I don't know if the board would like to consider that applicant to fill the seat, or if you want to keep interviewing and look at all of them.
Can I ask-
Yeah, go ahead.
Have we
Ryan.
publicly noticed, though, that we're receiving applications? If so, we need to fulfill that process.
Yeah,
And if we can ask Charlotte to send us Kristen's application to refresh our memories, but since we've opened it up, I think we need to continue to open it and see if anybody else is interested, and if not, we can decide if we want to re-interview her or not, or if we just want to go ahead and appoint her. So,
Is that?
is that okay?
When would we decide that?
What's that?
So,
And when would we decide that, did you say?
Well, because the applications are open until December something?
22nd.
Yeah. I mean, we already noticed it to the public, so we need to honor that.
I would still.
so let's have it as an
honor
open
that.
discussion item for early January, and we can touch base.
But I'll have Charlotte send everybody the
And
Kristen's application.
I know that we've had, I think it's the Healthy Rivers and Streams Board, that we've had an imbalance between the commissioner districts and the board members, and
She's up to
whenever
frying
we
pan.
appoint a new person, that's a potential opportunity to get a more
Yeah.
widespread geographic
Which
membership
way
on
was
the
heavily
board.
weighted, which
But if
end?
we only have one
Valley.
applicant, we
Is
don't
heavily
have
weighted.
that opportunity, but that's something to just keep in mind.
Yeah, Kristen is, I think, up the frying pan, and that's where Lisa Tasker's district, quote-unquote, area is from, so. But that's a thought. If somebody from Aspen applies, we don't have anybody really in the Upper Valley.
We have a Burlingame.
What's that? That's the other side of the roundabout, Kelly.
We did
need closer
successfully
to the
avert the
headwaters,
meeting on the
yeah.
21st, did we not?
We canceled the meeting on the 21st. Yes,
Other open discussion?
unless you want one.
I think
Oh,
we're
okay,
ready
thank you.
to go into our list, Kelly.
Okay,
and
Do
let's see if
it.
other board members have open
Way
discussion.
for me too.
Steve, did you have something?
It's fun.
No? Greg?
I would just say really briefly, an observation I made yesterday, or actually a couple days ago, before that big storm, this is kind of board comment, had this massive bull elk who's come to visit us, come and spend the night in our yard, and it's like he brought the big snowstorm, and he spent the whole night while it snowed around him, and then he left the next day after it was done. It was the
God,
coolest
how
thing.
awesome.
And then I saw him the next day across the gully, working in the neighborhood. But then yesterday morning, driving down Valley, I was taking the kids to school, I saw the sheriff pulled over, and a massive elk had been hit. And I'm hoping it wasn't him, because if we've bonded to him at our family, in our little neighborhood. But I just wanted to underscore the point that we lose so much wildlife just on 82 by the Brush Creek intercept lot, that area. But then also the thing I wanted to say this morning, the sheriff was there with his light on, observing the herd of elk was in the meadow at Cozy Point, at what do we call it now?
Cozy Point.
Is it Cozy Point still? And there are probably 40 or 50 elk at least standing out there, but the sheriff was there waiting to see if they were going to cross or not. And I'm just so grateful. And I should have said that to Joey when he was here. Joey, if you hear us.
You stop in and see him.
Joe will be
right
in
there.
tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll see him again. But it was just so good to see that they were on it, because I'm hoping it wasn't, Full Rack, who we've actually named. Hopefully he didn't get hit. But it's
Yeah, they were
possible it was
butchering
him.
the elk when I went by.
They were butchering
It
him,
was a
yeah.
fresh kill.
He was like a fresh kill yesterday morning during rush hour in the daylight.
There was another one on the other side
Yeah.
that somebody was there taking the antlers.
Yeah, it might have been him.
Can
So-
you do that?
There were two
There
across.
was, they were really close together.
There aren't that many huge bowls like that.
Can
He
you
had
do that?
14
Can you
points.
just pull over next to roadkill and
No,
take the
technically you're not
antlers?
supposed to, but I don't know if they were just cleaning up what had happened along that
You
section of the
might
road.
be able to get permission if you're
Yeah, I
feeding
think if you talk to
wildlife
the
or something.
sheriff's office, you can.
I do have
So-
one open discussion.
Yeah, I have one.
Okay,
as
that was
well.
it for me, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Steve, and then Patty, and then Francie, if you have
So
anything, and then I have
the
something.
other day, I don't know if this tour happened, but Mona Newton was arranging a tour to go over to Somerset to see the methane capture thing over there. And then it was on a really nasty day. I hope they postponed it. But I feel like, that's our big project that we could have good input into and move it forward at this point to do the project in Coal Basin. And I would hope that we could do another tour, if they didn't do that one, and go to Somerset, just to see what their operation there is. There's talk that it's really loud or, different things, but I think seeing it in person would really help us out on figuring out our project.
Great, yeah, thank you. Just so you know, they did postpone it, and they postponed it till today. And I said, well, we can't be there today, but please take video and be prepared to do it again. And I know he would do it again when he gets the chance. The one thing he did send in video already, which I can share at some point, is a video of the water that's being produced when they're burning off the methane. And it actually produces a significant amount of water, and depending on how much methane you can actually tap and capture, it's measurable and something that would, be of use
That's
down
cool.
the road. In terms of
And
acre
with the
feet.
big air leak that they have, they're still able to produce that much?
Well, the methane, when you burn methane, it's got
product is water,
carbon,
but-
hydrogen, oxygen in
Yeah.
it, and it reconstitutes into water, and carbon is released. Anyway, it produces water. That was the video he sent me. It
That's
was kind of
cool.
fascinating to see it happening.
We
So
need acre feet over there.
we need acre feet over there. We need acre feet everywhere.
Yeah.
So anyway, Steve, to your point, we'll make sure to do that again. I've been talking to them a lot, so I think people would love to see a working project while we're contemplating this other one.
And that sort of a thing, seeing something in person, it just kicks my mind into gear, like thinking of all the different possibilities, and these new ideas pop into my head. Well, how could we adapt that to do it in our neighborhood? And all, it stimulates lots of creative thinking to see something like that in person, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
John?
And just adding on to this topic, I did have the opportunity to meet with John Doherty, who's the interim director of CORE, who's been taking lead on the methane capture. And they will be sorting out, there's a lot of options right now that have been talked about, condensers to produce water, energy production, flaring, that they're still working through for the purpose of NEPA analysis and next steps. And so he felt that they would be better prepared probably later in the first quarter to come back to the board. And I think that would be both with an anticipated project scope as well as an ask for board support of the project in the form of, supporting the NEPA process. And so they're doing a lot of work right now, and so we will, we basically left it that CORE would get back in touch with staff, and when they had collated some of their, or put some of their information and had more of a project scope together. So we are staying on top of that. I know there's a lot of excitement about it.
We have a
Thank you
meeting
for
on
meeting with
Thursday,
them.
don't we, Greg?
We have yes, we do. We have a CORE meeting Thursday.
And I thought Mona was taking the lead on that.
Chris Caskey is really the manager and contractor who's doing the Coal Basin.
But I mean, Mona
And
as
Mona is
compared to-
working for him now. So Mona has transitioned to working for.
So she cut the ties and
Delta-
now she's over there.
She's at Delta Brick and Climate,
Oh,
and
that's
they're
great.
contracted to work with us.
That's great.
So that, with CORE. So that's
Yeah,
how that
my
works.
understanding is CORE's overseeing the contract. They've hired Chris Caskey, and Mona, as Greg said, is contracted with Chris. So CORE is still our primary contact. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, me, do you have something?
Yeah, I want to offer everyone, extend the invitation from Bill Tomsich at the airport to the inaugural flight coming in from Orange County tomorrow. They're going to start setting up at the airport at 1 o'clock. Thursday, thank you. Keeps saying tomorrow. I'm skipping tomorrow for some reason. I don't know why. Thursday, 1 o'clock, they're going to start setting up, and then the plane is due to arrive at 2. There's a plane departing and coming in, so it's always fun. They have little swag bags, and usually cake or something,
Will
cookies.
they bring
something.
oranges?
From Cali? I don't know. They don't have any oranges in Southern Cal anymore. They tore down all the orchards and put in housing. It's really bad. But anyway, so if anybody else wants to be there, I will be there. If anybody else, if there's 3 of us, we need to notice it.
It's commemorating the introduction of the nonstop flights from there? or
Orange
something?
County, the inaugural flight, they usually do a little welcome for the people that are on board or departing.
You should have a little flag, Patty.
Yeah, I was gonna try and wear some of my Southern California swag stuff that I have, but, you know, I haven't been able to wear those bikinis in a long time. So is anybody, if we need to, we should notice it if there's gonna be more than 3, more than 2.
I won't be there.
Okay. Nope, I'll be there.
Best wishes.
Hopefully I will
Happy
be
travelers.
left, we'll have left
Yeah.
from the airport by then.
Yeah, we'll wave as you fly off to Panama. All right, so that's good. I just want to give everybody a heads up.
Panama? You're going to Panama?
Long story.
I didn't know that.
All right, Francie, did you have an open discussion item?
I do not, thank you.
Okay. I have one. I am curious, I'd like to hear some follow-up on the status of the census objection, if we have more information about where that stands.
Yeah, so I do not have anything for you today. Kara is on vacation, and
Good for
so yeah, so she has been taking lead on that from our office, and so when she gets back, we can get an update and maybe email the board and
Yeah,
then
that'd
wait
be
for
great.
discussion for our next
Okay.
meeting.
Thank you. And, if any of you board members have some random scarves or hats lying around, we're doing like a neighborhood children's snowman making contest.
Children's what making?
Snowman
Oh.
making, and I could use some extras.
Hats and
So,
scarves.
Things you might get rid of.
How about carrots?
Oh, I can supply carrots. Thank you.
Coal, now
you'd
coming
have to
up
bring 'em
with coal
tomorrow.
might be hard.
Yeah, cool. will be
You can
tough.
use mine tailings. They look a lot like coal, but
That's
they're
right.
hazardous waste, so that might not be a good idea.
All right, so for our organized open discussion, should we go in order here? Let me pull
Yeah, I
my
think I
Zoom.
saw Julia on earlier, and if we could make sure she's
she is.
promoted to a panelist.
Yeah.
Oh, there she is.
She's on.
Hello.
And just a quick introduction, this is really a project that Julia's taken lead on under Jeanette's guidance, and it's a process that we are soft launching with the short-term rentals you may have seen in the press release. And we want the board to understand how comments are kind of being collected and collated now versus hopefully starting to corral the random emails. So with that, Julia, I hand it over to you.
Cool, thanks, John. Hi, everybody. So I'm going to share my screen so I can demonstrate the new system we have. Okay, can you guys all see this okay?
We can.
Perfect. So I wanted to show how to get to public comment information just on the regular Pickens County website. Everything that you need to know will be on the Board of County Commissioners subpage within the website. Here we have information for folks about the new form, for those who want to make a comment in person and or submit something physical in the mail, maybe for folks who don't necessarily use computers or things like that. But for today, of course, we're just talking about the form. This is also accessible by just plugging in the URL pickencounty.com/public comment. Hopefully that is easy for people to remember and get to instead of navigating the website. But here is the form. it will automatically generate the day of the submittal, so today's date. And folks have 3 kind of identity options to choose from. You can submit a comment as an individual. The first name, last name, and email are all required fields. Phone number is the only optional field. An organization or group. This is mainly for petitions and entities who want to say the same thing, but have multiple names attached. This hopefully will make it easier to consolidate those messages. And lastly, folks can submit anonymous comments, and of course there aren't any further fields they have to worry about. So in the actual comment portion of the form, there is a link to the future agendas portion on the Pickens County website, and this is just as a resource for people who maybe don't make a lot of comments or know for sure if this particular topic is going to be discussed by you all on an agenda, or if it's not and it's something that they're bringing out themselves. If that's the case, that they either don't know or if it's not officially on the agenda, they can select no/I don't know, fill in their own topic or subject and write their comment. And they have the option to add any supporting documents or material, but that's not required. If folks do know that the item is on the agenda, then they will have a pull down here to select agenda dates, meeting dates. I'll show tomorrow since you guys have a lot of public hearings scheduled for that day. So then this pull down will give all of the options for items to comment on, things going to public hearing. So I'll just select a popular one, the budget, for demonstration. And they can comment again and support add any additional documents that they want. The last section of the form is an acknowledgement so that it's super clear where this information is going, which is just to you all, the board, relevant staff, and filed into the public record. If you are submitting anonymously, it's going to be a checkbox. If you are submitting as an individual, then you sign your name and hit submit. So after hitting submit, it would show kind of a generated thank you for your submission page, so that folks know it was taken in and it was a successful submission. From there, all of the information on this form will be compiled into a PDF and directly emailed to you all and then to staff. And at that point, then I can go in and individually respond to commenters, so that they have a person response as well as that just computer generated completion notice. The last step is that, pull up here, it goes into the public record. And this is sort of what the public record looks like. This is accessible by the public, staff, you all. It's on the website on the BOCC public records section. I'll also be able to provide a link to public comments in the public record with my responses to everyone except those who submit anonymously because they don't provide information, of course. So the comments will automatically be put into this public comment folder, be sorted by agenda item or non-agenda item. So I'll show the agenda items from here. They get categorized by meeting date. In theory, there'll be any more dates to come once the system really gets used. And they will be subcategorized by the topic. So this is to make it easier for folks to go in and see, all of the comments that were generated from a specific item, and see them, save them, do what they need to do with them, as an easy way to just kind of navigate that system. And lastly, back here, on the day of each meeting, all the comments will be manually duplicated into this folder, BOCC meeting packets. This is because, as it is right now, comments are going here in the public record, and we don't want to change too much. And for folks who are used to finding comments in this folder, then they'll still be able to do that. And I think that concludes the demonstration of the system. Of course, we don't expect folks to exclusively use this right away, but we'll need some encouragement and redirection from staff, but eventually we'll get there and be able to use this tool to keep better track of incoming comments so that everyone who needs to get them gets them, and so that they all go into the public record. So if any of you all have any questions or need any clarification on any aspect of this, let me know.
We do have some. Steve and then Francie.
So Julia, all of us get emails and we get phone calls from people directed sometimes just to one commissioner. They're not to everybody. They're labeled to us. And it'll be comments on short-term rentals or whatever their topic is of interest. We need a system for putting that into this new system you have. And do you have that figured out, or should we go ahead and open that and like type in the person's name and copy their letter and paste it in there? Or do we send it to you and you do that, or do we send it to Charlotte and have her send it to all of us? What do we do when we get an email about a topic?
Yeah, it's a great question. So for right now, just sending them to me would be great, and I can respond to the commenter and just push them in the right direction for any future comments, since this is kind of a soft launch. So I'll receive the comment from you all and then show them the new website and new form that they can use, and of course send it to the rest of you. But yes, don't worry about filling out the form or doing any of that kind of administratively. It's not necessary.
And I know part of the process is letting the people know that in the future we want them to use this new system, but we don't want to turn away. If we welcome people's comments, and if they don't get it to us in the right medium, we still want them to do their comments.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So if folks email you all individually, it's kind of status quo in that you would just email them to me, and then I'll pass them along to staff and the other commissioners, and just let them know, with the link to the website, with the form, so that in the future, if they have any more comments to make, then they can use the form. But of course, we're not going to turn comments away if they're emailed.
Okay, Francie.
Pretty much the same question, but so Charlotte's out of the loop. We don't have to forward things to Charlotte anymore. Just to you, Julia?
Yeah, and that's the goal. I know that Charlotte's email is out there and has been used as a way to facilitate public comment. So I'm sure that they will still be coming into Charlotte for the beginning bit of implementing this new system. But yeah, starting to send them my way.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, so overall, we're starting to transition a lot of the board agenda functions from creation of the agenda, the minutes, collecting the comments on agenda items and such to Julia. It is going to be over time because it's a complicated process, so it's not something that is going to transition right away, but this is a more of an automated process that we're hoping that over time more and more folks will use. It goes right into the public record, but we're also not going to create any wrong doors for public comment to come in. But yeah, this is one where you can start to forward those public comments to Julia, and she'll have it in the system, and it'll be all in one place. So
Great.
we have better assurance that you're getting it.
And I just have a suggestion. I don't know if this would be helpful for other board members, but maybe Julia, if you write up just a little sentence and we can add it to our signature line in our email.
I don't have a signature line in my email.
If you would like one, I would be happy to.
I'm not doing a he, she, it, or her thing on mine.
No, it's just Patty Clapper, here's my phone number, here's my address, at the bottom of every email that you send. And so you can tag a line on there that would say, if you are interested in submitting public comment, use this link. It's pretty standard.
Yeah,
So,
that's a great idea, Kelly, and I'll write something up and send it to you all to use, or Patty maybe not use.
Question?
I have a personal signature
Yeah.
line.
Greg?
My question is just regarding the anonymous emails. Usually the only anonymous emails I ever get are usually ones that I wouldn't want to share. Or if I do share, usually everyone else has already gotten it, and it's vitriol or hyperbole or, just downright nasty sort of stuff. A lot of the time. It's rare that I get an anonymous email that really has some thought and content. So what I'm wondering is, I guess we're obligated to take it in, but giving somebody an option just to click anonymous and then flame us just seems like unnecessary. And I'm just wondering, is that really necessary that we have to have an anonymous checkbox? If they want to communicate with us, why can't they either communicate with us discreetly and privately, individually, and ask us to be discreet, or go public? I don't understand. It's almost like creating a chat room for people who are upset to vent. And maybe that's a good thing. I just want to discuss that.
I think public comment should be open to anybody who wants to comment. And it's not up to us to choose which ones we like and which ones we don't, even though some of them are pretty obvious we don't like them. But I think that's the public process, so. Well,
But this entire site you've created is kind of an optional thing. We're not obligated to do what we're doing right here with this, are we? So we're opening a door. Is that a door that needs, legally, are we obligated to open it?
With the anonymous one, you mean?
Legally, no. Do we think that there's a lot of efficiencies on the back end by being able to have a single spot where public comment is going? We can collate it and we assure it's appropriately recorded with any item it's associated with. That's really the goal. And I don't know, it may facilitate, I think if I'm hearing your concern, Greg, it's, facilitating the folks who don't have to take personal accountability because they're hiding behind an anonymous comment. It's a little harder, but that still happens by email. We still get the anonymous, as you say, comments, whether it's by an email's pretty easy to create these days with any sort of name. And so, it may facilitate, we can track that. I think it's incumbent on the board to weigh appropriately how much an anonymous comment weighs or doesn't weigh in your policy decisions. And to feel free to share that when you're weighing decisions may discourage that too. But we can, I think that's something we can track as this is going on and see if that's something that you want to change in the future.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I'm willing to give it a try. I just think of the wide open commenting and say social media. It seems very similar to that, and I'm just not sure how useful that'll be. Although I completely appreciate making it easier and collating it, taking the load off Charlotte, so she doesn't get every copy of everything that we all get. So I do appreciate that.
Francie?
I agree with Greg. You can't put a letter in the newspaper anonymously. And the same person could submit similar comments 1,000 times with anonymous, and then we would think, oh my God, there's 1,000 people out there who think like this, whereas it's only one person. So I agree with Greg.
Problematic. Yeah.
Well, and I guess how would we have dealt with the threatening email that Patty received, that resulted in, us being sheltered,
And the
if that
guy
had
threatened
come
to blow up,
through-
to shoot up our building.
Right, if that had come through anonymously, like, I just am sort of thinking that would we have taken it as seriously? Would it have resulted in any resolution, or would we just sort of be going through this ongoing, like, well, 2 days have passed, nothing's happened, I guess we're going back to normal, so there is that consideration, I think, as well.
I'm just so concerned about making it much easier for things like that to happen when it may not really be necessary for the flow of information from the public.
Well, can they send their emails with John Doe?
Well, the only thing I point out is I think we've already facilitated that opportunity for anonymity. I mean, we are on Facebook, we are on Twitter. I think even in COVID, we got on TikTok at some point, and I don't even know what that is really.
I've gotten off all of that, that's amazing.
And we do receive anonymous phone messages. We do receive anonymous emails from time to time. We've received threatening ones, unfortunately, from time to time. And I don't know, this is going to be so specifically tied to our agenda and website. I don't know that this will be the first place that people will go for that type of venue. But again, it's always something that we can turn off if we're seeing a pattern that's unproductive. I think the goal here is to be productive. And I'm speaking for you, Julia. I always think it's easy to do these things. But it is something where if we are seeing patterns of that type of undesirable or unproductive kind of comments and behavior, that we can look at changing the system.
I appreciate that. I mean, I'm on the side of sort of allowing anonymous comment.
Let's just see how it goes.
Yeah.
Can I just ask a real quick question? Did anybody else receive the thing from Kathy Ponder about her concerns about short-term rentals? I can't find the comment. Did I send it on to you? Ponder, Ponder. I can't find it, and I need to send it on to the mayor.
Just on this topic a little bit more, I
We'll
will say,
follow up.
APSHA accepts anonymous comments, and I actually think it's generated a feeling of safety for the commenter.
Feeling of
Right.
safety.
Yeah, like they
Oh,
feel like
sure.
they can report violations without, any feeling of retribution or something like that.
That's like a tip line.
Yeah, yeah. And not always.
Maybe
I
we
mean,
should have
some
a
of
tip
it,
line.
some of
Maybe
it
there ought
is
to
just
be a
like
tip
your
line
this policy
checkbox.
sucks for this reason, and they say it anonymously, and but
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's,
'cause
we'll
that's
give
not
it a
always a
try.
tip line. It's also their feeling of like, oh, I live in this community, and I don't want APSHA to like criticize me for trying to get feedback on their policy. So there's that too. So we're okay with retaining the anonymous
Yeah,
option
I
at this
think,
point?
see how it goes.
Okay, Julia, any other input? Thanks for doing this. Sounds like you'll be
Thanks,
busy every
Julia.
Friday populating that option.
Oh, quick question.
Yeah.
For Luddites like me, who rarely ever go into the Pitkin County website, how will I access this database? Will I be
Yeah,
alerted
so
every time there's a new
if
email,
you-
or?
Right, yeah, so Greg, you'll get an email directly as soon as there's a submission, similar to how it is now, except the email won't be coming from staff, it'll be coming from the system. And if you want to see kind of everything consolidated for one particular topic, you can let me know, and I'd be happy to email the bundle, for lack of a better word, to you, so that you don't need to do the steps to navigate the website and get into the record.
Got it. Okay, if I could, just for another minute, I think that sounds great. It'd be great to have them consolidated. If we have several different things going and they're categorized, that would be of great value. If it's just an email from Julia, and I don't know who it's from or what it's about, I was just thinking, that means I'm going to open all of them anyway, but there's going to be a lot of emails to open, I think. And I'm wondering, we'll just have to see what redundancy has, or do we have to go into several layers to actually get to the email? It'll be interesting to see how this works, but
Well, we've already gotten some,
We've already gotten some that
and
have
they
come
were
through
easy.
through the
It
system.
was super easy and efficient.
the
So
ones I got
it's a
today
little
didn't.
bit of a yes and, Greg. It's going to show up as an email to you, just like you would get an email comment anyway. And then this also
Okay, here they are.
allows
yeah.
the items to be consolidated into a folder, and through some magic that Julia understands that I don't, you can put all of those into a single kind of PDF document that can be
Great.
by topic. So if you, for example, when we were doing the airport, there's a lot of comments received, right? This system will allow all of those to be consolidated without the manual work that was literally days of work, I think, to
Sure.
put those comments together.
Make sure
Is
they
that
were all
fair,
accounted for.
Charlotte?
I was thinking of the Crystal River comments. There would seem to
Yeah.
be a lot, so that's a huge workload. I do appreciate what you're trying to do. So in your headings here, I just see I've got several emails. And Julia, you're emailing me a lot lately. In the heading,
What's up?
if it says short-term rental, I know immediately.
never
If it says new submission, I don't. So if you cut to it right away, like it's about this, boom, right off the bat, it's just suggestion right there.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's nice to see these.
Steve?
Yeah, I would agree if you put the general topic and then the person's last name on the heading, that makes it easier to, if you're reading a bunch of them and then you lose track of which one did I not read yet, that just helps to keep track of it and to find the.
Sure. Rather than just new submission.
I think, I would like to recommend that we just use Julia's, what she set up right now for a little while and see how it goes. I mean, it has the name of the topic right there,
Just
short-term
forward
rental
short-term rental,
ordinance.
so you know what it is.
That one does, yeah.
So, I mean, I think we should try it for a while before we ask her to make changes, is all I'm saying. I mean,
Okay,
I'm
let's
gonna
give it a
agree
shot.
with you on that.
thank you. Yeah, give me a
You
nut,
are
sure.
welcome.
We agree.
One more
Yeah,
thought.
Steve.
One thing Julia could do is just send out an email and you could have it on speed dial that there are new entries on the website and we need to go to the website to actually read what they
No,
are.
I'm not
That-
going to the website. The way it is so simple, just to open them,
I
look at them.
agree.
And Julia's got a folder, and if she wanted to see the whole folder of all these letters, she can just zip you the folder and you can spend the rest of your life going through them. Right, Julia?
This is going to make things really easy for us. All right. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Julia.
pickencountydotcom/public comment, right?
Yeah, /public comment.
/public comment. Got it. Okay.
All right.
Let's talk about the airport advisory board again.
I thought we were done with that.
Deja vu all
I
over
was
again.
too speedy.
Rich,
Moved
you
too
must
soon.
miss us terribly.
I'm just making up stuff so I can get in front of you so much. Yeah, I do apologize, board. You had best laid plans, I guess. You guys diligently went through. Were able to get the appointments done. Now we have some inherent conflicts in the bylaws, and to change the bylaws, it does take a 2-read ordinance. It's no big deal, but there's just a process here. What has happened is upon the appointment, it was brought to our attention that we had conflicts with the alternates in a residential requirement within the bylaws. And then the second one was with our ex officio members. We had mentioned about putting terms on them, and the discussion at the end of the meeting was, well, let's just let those just be appointed, and they can term out based on the different jurisdictions' decisions. On the ex officios, I did reach out to each of the managers. They'll support whichever direction you all go. And we did have some discussion, and if we do the appointments, we can set it up and not have to change the bylaws on this. And by doing terms on the ex officios, it does give an opportunity for those to term out and for those elected officials to make a decision if they wanted to replace somebody. It's a little more graceful way of doing it. Let's say for Basalt's situation, they've appointed a staff member. They may want to reappoint somebody without doing it just whenever they felt the need to do it. They could let it term out in a little more graceful way of doing it. So that's something to consider. But the ex officios and the discussion with them, if you so desire to just adhere to the bylaws, I would suggest that you appoint Sarah Ott for the 3-year term, Plank Kinney for the 2-year, and then it's Carolyn, or I mean, excuse me, Catherine Christoph. Yeah, Catherine Christoph to the 1-year term from the SALT. So Kelly, if you want to take these, I guess, one at a time, doing the ex officios first, it may be an easier discussion than the second one to follow.
Okay, sounds good. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think we should just leave it up to the individual jurisdictions and let them determine if they have an elected official who we give to a 3-year term, and that elected official doesn't get reelected, and they're gonna have to reappoint during that timeframe. I think we just leave it up to, we let them pick who they wanted, whether it be staff or elected, and to represent them. So I think it should be up to them to determine if they're gonna term limit them or reappoint them or whatever.
Okay. Other thoughts? Steve?
I would let them determine who they want. If we run into an issue, we could just have a tactful conversation with the municipality and say, you know, we're having difficulties with the person you have appointed, and could you consider, you know, we need to try to work this out. Maybe it could be resolved, or maybe they could appoint someone else. But I would leave it up to them in terms of, if they want to leave somebody in there forever they'd be really knowledgeable about the airport, and they're not voting on things anyhow. They're there for the communication channel and to communicate the municipality's feelings about, you know, different airport issues also. So I wouldn't put a term limit on them.
Okay, John?
Just on this direction, that would require us to come back and make a change to the bylaws. So it might be that the process right now would be to go ahead and make the appointments under the bylaws that were adopted. And then, you know, at some point next year, we can bring the bylaws back and make those adjustments to this phase. But the bylaws were adopted with these
Yeah, but
terms in
chances
them.
are we're gonna have to change the bylaws as far as residency for the alternates, that issue anyway, so we might as well just do it all at one time.
Yeah, and so what we would suggest is let's go ahead and appoint under our current bylaws, and then we'll come back and
Well, can we
adjust
appoint the
them.
alternates right now under the current bylaws?
I think that is the next discussion.
Yeah,
That's
so
the
that's what I'm
point.
saying is, I don't think we can do that. I think, and we could do a one read
Can we just get some
emergency.
direction
Yeah.
on how the whole board feels about if there should be a term limit at all for ex officios? Because I think that's the question at hand. Currently, there is 3, 2, 1. So if we were to change it, the notion is let's appoint them under that now, I guess is the proposal on the table. If we are to change it, do we change it to 3, 3, 3 years and have some fixed time limit, to which, you know, the benefit could be that someone just terms out and they appoint a different ex officio? Or do we remove term periods altogether? So I've heard Patty and Steve say no term periods, and I'm just wondering from Francie and Greg.
I could say leave it alone.
I'd leave it alone.
Leave it at 3, 2, and 1, or step out of it.
I'd prefer not to tackle new bylaws at this point in the process.
Well, we're probably gonna have to for the next issue is
The
the
other
point I'm
issue, we
trying to
will
make.
need to change it, but if
Or we
it's simpler to
change
leave this
finance.
alone, let's leave it alone and move on to the next one.
Steve?
One other thought, if we did have a term limit, at that point, the city would have to reappoint, and they could reappoint the same person
Right.
That's
if they
correct.
wish.
Right.
But it would kind of sunset the thing, so then they take a fresh look at it, and they would decide who's the best person at that point to represent them. But it could be the same person, or maybe they pick somebody different.
And they could
So I
decide to
wouldn't
do it
mind
in
that.
2
I wouldn't
years
mind
or
that
1 year.
system. I think that could be good.
Yeah, but if they've appointed somebody for 3 years, they could decide in 1 year that person wasn't working out, and then the person's been appointed for 3 years, so. Anyway, whatever you guys wanna do, but I think we need to look at the whole picture when we get there.
So right now, I'm hearing a 2-2, Kelly. I'm not sure we've heard.
She's the decider.
Yeah, I think it's appropriate to have a sunset period, to sort of allow anyone to revisit their appointment and have a check-in.
And
Whether that's
staggered.
3, 2, 1, I'm fine if we don't change the bylaws to retain that, or I would just say 3 years for each. Would be
I would argue for just leaving them staggered, just so that we don't have, in the event that we did have a lot of turnover, hopefully this would eliminate it being all at the same time.
Well, and I think it's just staggered usually for the first, right? And then after that, it goes to.
That's correct, and the idea is to have some continuity of conversation and policy discussions.
And
on
then
the
it'll go
board.
to 3 years for everybody, but staggered,
Right.
whatever. Then we have to go through.
So I'm fine to keep the bylaws for that. Rich, you want to discuss the next
Okay, so, yes, so we will keep the bylaws for that.
thing we need to address?
The second one had to do with the residency with the alternate, and I apologize, this is a line that was set up under section 3 as far as qualifications go. What ended up happening, you all had Meg as a regular of the top 7, and Rick Heedy at the time was an alternate. And later on in your discussion, we ended up flipping those, or you had decided you wanted to go that route. When that happened, that put Meg as an alternate, not living within Pickton County, so that you've got a couple of choices in front of you. If you leave the bylaws the same, the opportunity to flip them back to your original discussion is certainly one option. You can change the bylaws to just remove any residency on the alternates. And I don't know the rationale behind that, other than the fact that I think we were trying to make sure that there was always going to be a majority. And so that's where the focus was that you had a majority of the 9. So 5 of them at least had to reside within Pickton County. So you've got a couple of options to kick around there as well.
So you're saying the bylaws say they have to be the alternates have to be Pickton County residents?
Correct.
So
But all we have to do is delete that. We don't have to rewrite it.
we have to change the bylaws?
You have to
Yeah.
go through
Yeah.
the process to
Right.
adopt new bylaws with that amendment. Thoughts, folks?
I don't want to go through flipping people from alternate. We've already made
I
our
agree.
decision.
And it's
Yeah.
published.
Yeah.
So you'd rather keep the board as constituted and change the bylaws rather than change the board as constituted?
In this
and keep the
instance,
bylaws?
yes.
Steve?
Now, I could see a situation where if there were 4 and 3, 4 residents and 3 non-residents as the voting members. In that case, I think you might want to have the alternates to be residents. So if someone's not there and they're filling in to vote, say 2 residents are not there, and you have a non-resident alternate, all of a sudden you have a majority of non-residents voting. So it's a little nuanced if you have a really close split. The way we have it, we have a pretty overwhelming majority are residents already on the voting numbers. I can't remember I can't remember the split.
3.
Is it 5-2?
No, it's not
Let's
in
see, it
Lisbon's
is,
bylaw.
so you had three that do not live in Pickton County, so.
So it's
Yeah,
4-3.
6.
6 to
Well,
1?
we were looking at all 9, whenever we were doing it. The bylaws just talk about the majority of the members, and the fact that the alternates get to discuss, they get to be a part of it, they just don't vote. There may be times whenever you do have 2, Pickton County residents are gone, and you would have, well, in this case, I don't think you would ever have a majority not being there based on this. The way that it's set up right now.
So
But
if
the
we-
easy solution, just like you said, is to change the bylaw, let it go as if you had originally set up your board. That way it takes any of this, the nuance that Steve's talking about out of that equation as well.
Okay, so there could be a situation where we have more non-residents voting on a airport matter than residents.
Well, our alternates right now, one lives in Pickton County and one doesn't, right?
Correct.
So how, you know,
So if you have 4 and 3, and then 2 are missing.
and they're both 2 that live in Pickens County on the regular
So-
one.
We'd have
And then
4
you
and
have
4.
more,
4
you
and
have
4.
one of your alternates, you have 4 and
4.
It's a tie.
3.
The way to structurally prevent that from happening would be to say amongst the voting members, no more than 2 of them can be non-resident.
So then we're gonna have to start over again.
And then you could also say that among the alternates, no more than 1 can be a non-resident. That would be one possible solution to, I don't know if I have the numbers exactly right there, but something to that effect. In a bylaws change to make it official.
Yeah, right now you've got 5 Pickens County members and 2 non-Pickens County members slated on your top 7.
So we can't have any, it would be 5-4 at worst, which would still be more Pickens County, so I don't see it as an issue. Even if both of the alternates were not from the county. And anyway, is it so terrible to not be from the county? If you live in Carbondale and you use the Aspen Airport all the time, is that so terrible? To be able to vote at one meeting?
Depends on the topic. The voters of Pickens County might think it's a big
Yeah,
deal.
if there's a financial implication of some sort.
Yeah. All right, let's figure this out.
I think if the chances of this happening are slim to none, from what I'm hearing, based on the numbers we have now, I don't want to have to go switching members around or starting over again and selecting members. I think we've done that. We just need to.
And published it.
Yeah. I think we just need to eliminate that the alternates have to both be Pickens County residents. And if you want to put 1 and 1, we can do that, because right now we have 1 and 1 on the alternates. We wouldn't have to reappoint people and shuffle the deck again. And
It is an advisory board, right? So it's not like they're going to be able to stage a coup and take the, move the airport. to-
anonymously.
Yeah.
Right, anonymously. Right, so it seems to me that the safeguards are in place. It's good we talked about it, but I'm not feeling too worried about it.
So I have one other thought.
Sure, Steve.
For bylaws change, if we limited the alternate to no more than 1 non-resident, then if there's people missing at a meeting, the chairman says, I mean, they could say, well, the resident person is gonna be the one who's the voting member.
Good point.
And
it's
if they're both missing, then you've got 1 and
if
1.
they're
That's
both
what I just
missing,
said.
The chairman could say, well, the alternate, neither one of the alternates gonna vote if it's gonna make a, I don't know, that's getting too confusing maybe, but.
You're talking about the
I'm
quorum
confused.
at that
The
point.
quorum, yeah, the whole quorum thing, but if there's only 1 alternate on who is non-resident, I think that gives more leeway for the chairman to make sure that there's a majority of residents
Right, and if,
voting on any given day.
so we have to change the bylaws to say 1 and 1, 1 in and 1 out. And then we don't have to change who the alternates are, because right now we have an alternate that's in and an alternate that's out. So it would fit that. We wouldn't have to shuffle the deck with who's on first and who's not in the ballpark.
Yeah, we could do it that way, or we could just say not any requirement for the alternate. And the chances of ever flipping the majority would be very small in the next few years. People who are on this are on it to be there.
All right, so I
You know,
think.
I would
sorry.
think from a staff's perspective that we would respect it as well. That, I mean, if it's coming down to a vote and you've got alternates and people missing, I don't think anything's going to be rushed enough to where they couldn't hold off. So from our perspective, we'll honor not getting the board into that kind of a position.
So how are we gonna change the bylaws then?
So what's
So
your
what I've
recommendation?
heard is that we will change the bylaws before we appoint this board, in order to appoint this board. And we would have to change it to say that we can allow 1 alternate to live out of county. And I think we should check the quorum language about making sure that a majority of residents are voting.
And we can bring it back under an emergency resolution, because we wanna get this board appointed, I would say, sooner than later. if that's okay with the board to do an emergency reso, if that's okay with the county manager.
Yeah, let it,
Sorry, I'm just trying to think what you've got on the agenda for tomorrow, too.
I'm not saying tomorrow to change the bylaws. It'll take us.
yeah,
emergency
so
reso.
it'd
It
be
would-
probably at the first, regular,
January 13th?
Yeah, it gives us time to address the changes and get the documentation cleared up and then bring it back in an emergency reso on the 12th of January.
Oh, what's going on here?
Is that
Yeah.
the next?
So we haven't yet appointed these people to the board?
no, so you
Even though we
gave,
put it out in
the
paper?
formal action needs to be through a resolution at a regular meeting, so, the work session was conducted for the board to give us direction. Staff discovered the conflicts with the bylaws, so wanted to bring that back again in work session, and we apologized for that. And then that gives us direction, put the resolution together.
Okay, cool. Let's
Yep.
do it. Move it.
All right, clear, good? Cool, thank you. All right,
So
thanks, Rich.
Just to be
Thanks,
clear,
John.
the direction is one and one, Picken County, and come back that way?
One in, one out as the alternates.
Okay.
And a
Kelly,
quorum
just the-
of majority of in-county residents voting, which it may already
Okay.
say that. Let's just check it.
I will do that. I do know it's very, the quorum, it's just shall constitute by the attendance of 3 voting members, so it's, that's all it says as far as quorum goes. We could add something there.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Charlotte
Charlotte.
Anderson, come on up. And if everyone who has known Charlotte over email and the phone over the many years, here as she is, a wonderful self
Person. Not virtual.
But masked.
Yeah.
We know what you look like.
Charlotte?
Hi, thank you for letting me chat about a few things that we normally do every end of the year.
Check your microphone there.
Thank you. So the first thing is the calendar. And of course, as I started to come down here, I saw that I have a couple of errors here. June 29th, I've got a work session on a Wednesday. And I don't think there was a reason in previous discussions for that. I think that's just
There
an
is.
error.
Yes, there is.
There
There's the election on the 28th.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah,
So we moved it to the 29th.
Okay.
but I do have a question in October. Why is the 31st red? Are we now creating a holiday or something?
No,
on
no,
Halloween?
that's just, I need to turn that to black.
I thought Halloween should be a holiday. Darn, Charlotte.
Along with June 3rd, I noticed that was in red as well.
October
so,
31st, it's in red. And I wanted-
So I'll fix those items, but we did talk about the holidays in September and October, and I think we discussed that there were no regular meetings that conflicted with those. So if the board's in agreement, we just leave the calendar as is.
Because Yom Kippur's on a Tuesday for it's a work session, so we're okay.
Yep.
We were more worried about people not being able to participate in public comment on regular meetings,
Correct.
on religious holidays. Next year might be different. 23 might be different.
That's correct. Changes from year to year. So if you're all in agreement with that.
Oh,
I think so. Any other input?
Yeah, I have a question.
Patty?
Columbus Day is October 10th, I believe, and that we don't declare that as a holiday.
That's correct.
And then we're adding Juneteenth, which is June 20th, as a holiday. Okay.
The November 11th, that's holiday?
Veterans Day.
Veterans Day.
Oh, it should, yeah. Yeah, Friday.
Okay,
All right, that was good.
now the fun one.
Okay. So the documents that I passed out today, this is a draft of the resolution that would go in January, and we can just let you guys go through this, and I'll make notes, and then on the 4th, we can bring it back to discuss it again with changes, and then it will go as a resolution on the 12th.
So does the board want to spend time individually going through this, talk about it now, a little bit, and on the 4th, or how would you like to proceed on this?
I've been through it.
You ready to talk? Patty, are you ready to talk?
Yeah, I just have another
You guys
real
ready to
quick, I have
talk?
another real quick conflict.
Yeah.
Can I just bring that up before we get to the board appointments?
Uh-huh.
On January 25th, it's a Tuesday, we've got a board retreat prep at 10:30, and I have an ACRA board retreat that morning, and we're starting at 10:30, and the ACRA board retreat is from 8:30 to 1. So, is there any, if there's not a way we can move that 10:30 up, to later, then I can at least go to the morning part of the ACRA retreat. If not, I'll just figure it out. So just whatever we can do would be great, and if we can't do anything, I can deal with it. Thank you. Sorry, I just noticed that.
Okay. And I'll check agendas and.
Yeah, and then you and I can talk when ACRA starts
Rearrange.
changing their meeting dates around.
All right. Patty is the seasoned chair who's on deck for next year. Francie, you are the novice vice chair who's on deck
That's an understatement.
for next year.
And I just want to let Francie know, I will be gone in February.
Oh, great. You're gonna be gone for the
For
retreat?
the whole month. No. I'm going to be gone for a work session and a regular meeting. I think the work session is the 22nd and the 23rd is the regular meeting. So if you're not comfortable, maybe we can have Greg or Kelly
You
step
just
up.
better do some good training between
Well,
now
I
and
don't
then.
know how
and-
much we're going to, I told John, I'm
You'll
going to
be
be
fine.
really busy this
You'll be
next year, so, yeah.
Yeah, but we'll set up we typically set up a weekly meeting with the chair and vice chair to run through agendas, and Francie, we can use that time to make sure
Break
you're
you in.
comfortable with the process and
Yeah,
such.
sounds good. I'm not scared.
I have found those meetings to be incredibly valuable.
The Thursday afternoon meetings, yeah.
Yes.
Are we meeting tomorrow, on Thursday?
And
No, I think next week though.
Francie, if you're running a meeting, we can help correct you or make sure you say
They'll put
something
you in your
right.
place.
Yeah,
Because
and
that-
I've seen Kelly ask,
It actually is
John,
really,
what do I need, what do I do
it's
here?
really helpful to be chairman several times while you're vice chair, because that's a really good experience, because then it just prepares you for when you are
Right.
chairman every meeting.
I know, but I didn't mean to push her into that quite so early in the year, but
Yeah.
all
Well,
right,
we
you have a
can,
life.
we can all help and help it go smoothly.
exactly. And I'll just watch the meeting silently from California.
APSHA, I'm happy to continue serving. Francie,
Me
how
too.
you feel?
I
about
feel good
that?
about after. I love
Okay.
after.
Did you really
Cool.
say that?
I did, I said that. I really care about after. I love it. I think the board is incredibly committed and forward-thinking, and I'm happy to be involved.
Yeah, I think we're in a great chapter of APSHA right now. ACRA,
Yep. Yeah.
Greg, you good as alternate?
Well, Patty's been to so many. I listened into a couple of meetings, but honestly, I'm there as an alternate, but I've never been called upon.
Technically,
so-
APSHA doesn't have alternates, except
Well,
for
we
the
could.
board we do, so,
Okay.
yeah. And I try to go to at least participate in every APSHA meeting.
So I'm
I mean,
comfortable and
ACRA.
I'd love to be more involved, so that's fine.
All right, and I want to get with you guys because I have a lot of ideas of what I think ACRA should be doing. That we can talk about.
You can always come to a meeting
I
and voice your
know,
opinion.
I know. And now that I won't be chair, I'll have time to.
I'll let them know ahead of time.
All right, CCI. It's Steve and Francie and I and John and Nan peppered in there.
So Nan is going to be
I
retiring, and
know,
so
halfway through the session.
yeah, I don't know if you want to throw, my name in there for now, and I'll confer with whoever the Human Services Director is, or,
Yeah, I think we should probably do that. Just put you there until we know somebody who's gonna step
yeah,
up.
Nan and I will obviously work
Okay.
closely, yeah.
And Steve, I'll be more involved this year. It was, I had a lot of stuff to catch up on this year.
Yeah, the
Without-
way,
with
The way it
COVID.
kind of worked out was Kelly wasn't going as much, although you were going online.
Yes, which I
I mean,
continue
most
to
of the
plan to
meetings
do.
were online, but now going forward, you'd rather just do the online attendance. And I don't mind being there in person more often, because I think it helps to be there and have one person there in person anyhow. And I'm used to that, and I enjoy that.
So I'll go with you sometimes too.
And you could come down too, Francie, if you want to come
Yeah.
to the
Any of
meetings
us
and
can
then
come down.
just- Yeah, any of you, any of
But I
us
attended
actually
maybe
could.
5 virtually, and then the summer conference. Was it summer conference, fall conference, something? And, but I could attend more this year now that I understand what's going on.
It helps to go, if you can go to the summer and the winter meetings, then, and meet people in person, that's really valuable.
Yeah.
Even
wear-
if
but
you
wear a
do-
mask.
You could do the other ones virtually, but then you'd associate the names and the faces and where they come from, and
Yep. So I can stay an alternate on those 3. If
Okay.
nobody else unless somebody else is jonesing for it.
CCI,
No, and
I don't know, I
I'm-
think it would.
It's all good. I'm, and Steve, if you want more support, just,
Let us know.
think about it between now and when we do the appointments or whatever, but, we can also sort of coordinate a little bit better in the week leading up to those big steering committee, meetings too.
And, yeah, let me think about it some, because maybe.
Because I think last year I let you, I stood in as an alternate because I wanted to give up some responsibility.
Well, you were gonna be chair here, so you didn't
Yeah,
wanna do any extra,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, but you can always, as alternate, just flip it and Steve can step out and you can step in.
Yeah, totally.
There's flexibility there.
All right, so if there's any changes between now and the 4th, we'll think about that based on your reflections, Steve. CCAT, I hope you all will continue to appoint me to
Yeah.
that. I sit on their leadership structure. So I'm the subcommittee, the housing subcommittee chair, and then that puts me on their governing board, for CCAT.
It's fine.
Yeah, and
Think about that.
I'm good being the alternate, because there's a lot of
Crossover.
cross-connection between CCAT and CCI.
And hopefully more and more, as they get more collaborative. All right, CC4CA, Greg. I don't know if you and I have done a good job tag teaming that this year, but,
I've pretty much been going. I think,
Okay.
I'm comfortable staying in there.
that'd be great.
And you are, let's see, you're listed actually as the primary on their website. Their database has not been updated in a couple of years, I discovered today, which is frustrating. But anyway, I'm happy with it. I'd like to stay involved in that. And I want to be more active with them as well, so.
Okay. River District, or no, I skipped
The
over
round
the
table?
round table.
I haven't gone
I've
to one
been
of those
pretty
in
active.
I was
in a
wondering
while.
if
You've been there,
Francie
right?
should do that, because she's doing the River District.
Well, I
thing.
really am hardly doing the River District. It's like, they forget to ask me any things, and then I try and get in touch with John, and it's been
Yeah.
very confusing about what my role is there. I did the
Yeah.
training with Andy, which was really great, and really helpful, but, I don't do anything.
Well, wait a minute. I think the whole idea to have somebody from the BOCC go is that there would be a BOCC member there. And so that was kind of the point of it.
But I can't go to exec session, and so I'm not really on the board. It's just, I go as often as I can, but.
They could invite you into exec session at any time.
That's kind of a red flag for me.
So I think the issue, if I remember, and John Ely would probably be better to fill in, is that kind of like we just ran in with our bylaws, there's a certain appointment that runs concurrent with John's appointment to the board. And this board doesn't have the authority to formally appoint. Francie, is that, am I getting this right?
I think that's right.
And so Francie is almost participating as a member of the public
That's right.
at this point.
Got it.
So I did do that training, which I was invited
But
to by
they don't
Andy.
tell you when the meetings are?
Well,
If I dug deep, but there's not I don't like to get a thing that shows up on my calendar or anything like that.
Right.
So
We just have to add you, because Lori DePaola, I think, I get all of her emails about agendas.
Say that again?
The, I know I get all the notices of their agendas.
Well, I
so
could
you
go on their
could probably
website and
get-
find things out.
They
And
send
I
them
get
to-
their newsletter and stuff. Well, I'm
Yeah.
saying I don't get a formal Google invitation, so it doesn't show up on my calendar, because I'm not, I could talk to Andy about that.
And I think also John Ely could easily just forward
Yeah.
the meeting dates and times to you as
Well,
well.
but Kelly already gets it automatically, so if Kelly's getting it, we should just ask
I'll
that
talk
Francie
to, I'll
get
talk
it.
to Andy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just
But then
have him
if-
send it to you. That's
If
perfect.
Francie was the 1177 roundtable person,
I don't know what that
you would be
is.
directly involved in water discussions.
What is
and-
that?
Well,
And some of them being the same ones they talk about at the River District and others being
Yeah.
different.
What is that and who's on it and what do they do?
so, but from a bigger water perspective, we're kind of dividing the water responsibilities, because Greg is doing RWAPA. And then I've been doing the roundtable, and Francie.
Then,
Greg also does
appointed
CCI,
to-
or QQ.
QQ.
Yeah, which
Somebody
hasn't
tell me
met
what
in-
the
QQ
River
hasn't
Basin
met in so long, I've
1177
forgotten about
is?
them.
Can
Should
somebody
do
explain,
QQ.
can somebody,
have.
who- yeah,
So
Kelly
the,
and I,
the roundtable is essentially like a subcommittee of the, CWCB, the Colorado Water Conservation Board. And so I think they have 11 roundtables around the state. And, you know, we look at policy, we look at grant funding, and it's the Colorado River Basin.
Basin.
That
And it's
we're looking
it's
at.
electeds and it's
Yeah, so it's a little
staffers,
bit different than the
yes.
Colorado River District, which is its own jurisdiction. I forget how the CWCB was created, if it's through statute, appointments of the governor, blah, 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 blah. But that's how they're a little bit different. So it's focusing on, you know, obviously water policy, but like the so the roundtable does the water plan document that like Andy and I presented on earlier this summer. And, you know, so there's some crossover. So like the River District has a member on the round table, but it's just constituted of different members
Okay.
working on water policy issues. So yes, there's definitely crossover. I would say that. So maybe Francie, if you would want to be the alternate on that instead of Greg, and then
I'm okay with that. If
we
that's-
can-
what- How do you feel about that, Greg?
I'm fine with it.
All right, so I'm gonna call, Andy or Zane, one of those guys,
again, they're
You're gonna call
a little
Andy
bit
about
different,
the,
but
about the water district,
right,
the conservation
right,
district.
and we're gonna put you in under Greg, instead of Greg for the alternate for this 1177.
I went when we were working on the Colorado Water Plan. Rachel and I both would go to the roundtable. She was the voting member, but then I served on like an ag subcommittee. We were actually writing, you know, parts of the Colorado Water Plan, and it was very, very fulfilling and very busy
Awesome.
time right then. We were doing. They're not doing as much right now, although I think they are reviewing the Colorado Water
Yeah.
Plan as one of the things they're doing.
Okay, great.
And if,
All right,
and if
cool.
it seems like a good track for you and you're enjoying it, you know, somewhere you should maybe come to a RWAPA meeting, because I can imagine, you know, if you sink your teeth into it, I'm okay with you taking that too, but I don't want to dump it on you.
Not yet.
I'm happy to be there for now.
He's gonna be vice chair, I'm
I
keeping her
like being
busy,
there for
please
now,
remember
yeah.
that.
and the water stuff is like, it can be so big, right?
Yeah,
So
it's
it's good to
huge.
spread it out.
And don't forget that every time I come to one of these meetings, it's an extra 2 hours. So think about that in terms of my meetings.
Yeah.
That-
We're with you.
Well,
These
yours
are
is long,
optional.
Steve's is long too. But how long does it take you to get here, Steve?
Huh? To do what?
To get here from your house?
To where?
From your house to this
Commute
table?
To these
Oh,
meetings.
to here? It's sort of 45, 50 minutes
Yeah.
minimum.
All right, let's see if we can blow through the rest of us, because
Yeah.
I think we were shooting for a 4 o'clock finish.
Yeah.
We got it.
Core.
I'm happy
Greg
with
and
core.
Francie, you're good?
I'm good.
I'm happy to be there. I feel like it's a good place to be right now.
Okay, Economic Development Northwest COG, I'm vice chair of both of those, and I'm gonna stay there.
Yeah, and I've occasionally, I think there was only one time Patty couldn't be there, where I actually
That was
went
in
to
California, I think.
Grand Lake or somewhere
Yeah.
to vote, to represent us. But then occasionally I attend the meetings, not very often, but occasionally I have.
Okay, QQ, right, Kelly? Is that the
Can
next
leave
one?
it
Yeah, we
alone
can leave
unless
it.
you wanna, yeah,
Yeah.
it's fine. They're not doing an awful lot right now, so, okay.
Board of Health, how you guys
I'm
loving that?
gonna step out as alternate for this next year.
Okay,
I have to pare down some of my committee appointments.
right, to do your other thing, got it.
It's gonna
I'm
be
happy to stay
busier.
on Board of Health.
I hate to miss it for a year, but I just have to, I've been advised by my mental
your
health
shrink.
counselor to look at paring down a little bit for this coming year.
I don't want to do it.
Okay, that's a no. Do we need an alternate? Do we absolutely need an alternate? It's up to you guys.
I
I
think
part-
it would be important
It'd
to
be a
have
good
an
idea to have
alternate.
somebody to
Yeah.
step in if I, get hit by a bus or
I
something.
participate in almost every meeting, but I don't get to vote.
I used to enjoy it when we were all the Board of Health. I will think about it.
Think about it, all
It
right.
will be a
We're
possibility.
thinking about it.
I will think about it as well. I want,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we could have 4 alternates, and then you can all
There you
think
go.
about it.
And then I'll be the one that shows up and votes.
Might as well stay there.
All right, go, there, you heard it from Patty. All right, Rafta?
I
You
wouldn't
guys
mind
good?
not doing that, but it is down valley, so it seems like I'm a reasonable choice for that.
Right.
Uh,
I'm happy to be there. I enjoy being on RAFTA. It's,
I don't feel
There's
like I
important
do
work to
much
do.
on RAFTA, but that's because Dan does such an incredible job
Yeah.
leading it, that there isn't that much for the board to do, really.
I felt that way for the first however many years I've been on,
Yeah.
Yeah.
as the alternate, definitely, but.
And alternates don't always have to go to meetings. I think it's great that the alternates have been going, so they keep up to speed. But
Right.
generally, in some cases, it's when the voting member is not
Isn't
gonna be
there.
there,
Yeah.
so. But
But
it's,
then if you don't know what
well,
you're
that's what I'm
voting
saying,
on,
is if
what's-
there's big issues going on, you really need, like Board of Health, I went because there was so much going on.
Yeah.
But Steve
sure.
didn't always go to some of the Northwest caucus, sometimes there just wasn't anything.
I'll stay on
Big
RAFTA,
one.
I don't
it's
usually go
fine.
to Roapa either.
I'll stay
Now
on
that we
RAFTA.
can telecommute, it's a lot easier to show up.
All right, Regional Transportation Coordinating Council, does that still exist?
Yep, and
Okay.
both those, that and Vintage, I'm actually the elected official representative on both those boards, which is it's part of Northwest COG. They're subcommittees basically, but one of their official positions, they pick someone who is an elected official, and I fill that role in both of those right now. And so, yeah, I'm good. They're 4 times a year, each of those, the RTCC and Vintage,
It would be
4
easy to,
meetings a year.
it would be easy to assume that Vintage was about wine, and I was gonna ask to be on that list.
It is about whining,
You can
did
have
you say?
4 alternates to that, right?
No, we don't need an alternate. Actually,
He
on
doesn't
the,
wanna share.
Picken County does have an opening, for, it would be somebody from the senior council, cause Debbie Overender is a representative, but they have an opening for another representative
Oh,
from
yeah,
Picken County.
that
the
hasn't come to my
Vintage.
attention, so.
But it should be someone from the senior council, I think, should be the one to
Well, I
fill
bet
that.
the person who's running Vintage will probably follow up on that.
Yeah.
Rudai, Kelly, you go all the time.
No, Greg goes, I go occasionally.
I'm there. I'm on that one. Happy
Good.
to stay
Yeah, me too.
for time being, unless Francine wants to spread her tendrils out.
No, I'm good, thank you.
They have really good food, I can tell you that. And it meets in Basalt, generally.
Yeah, that's a fun group.
So I have to ask Greg, what do you do on the Workforce Investment Board?
Nothing. I've never been to one of those meetings.
I don't think they're really, I think we need somebody just in case. The same thing
If
for
something
Workforce
happens.
Development Board.
Right.
John, do you want to just step in with that until we find somebody to replace Nan? It doesn't mean that we won't be revving back up again, in light of workforce
Something happened.
issues.
Right.
Right now, it's kind of just a discussion at Northwest COG.
Yeah, the only other, if we had our resiliency position, but we haven't made that
Yeah.
hire yet either.
It seemed for the
Does
first
it have to
several.
be like it can be staff? Does it
Yeah.
have-
It doesn't.
Yeah, it can be, Nan's been the second seat, we have 2 seats. So Nan and I, when we used to have virtual meetings at CMC, in their system. But with COVID and stuff, we didn't do virtual meetings because it kind of transitioned more into a discussion with Northwest COG and economic development.
It does not need to be staff though, Kelly. It could be another Commissioner.
Yeah, so do you want to just fill in though until we find somebody for,
I-
Nan was pretty involved in it.
If someone else is interested, I'd be happy
He's
to.
looking at me.
I'm just saying it as an interim until we,
Yeah.
like, when we
I'll
become.
fill the interim role,
Okay,
Okay.
and I'll keep you
Thanks, Kelly.
posted.
the interim role.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any specifics as to who the second seat was supposed to go to.
Yeah.
And I'll find out who we have to notify of that, Charlotte. I have no idea. Remind me and I'll contact John Stabney about that.
All right, BLM, you guys good?
We're good.
We
You know,
don't do
don't get a lot of
anything.
correspondence, but we've had a couple conversations in the last six months, I guess. But yeah, that's
There isn't
fine.
much BLM land in Pickens County.
Black
So
Lives Matter.
Vista, Patty, you're hoping we.
Yeah, I'm
Right?
hoping, this is another one I'm gonna step down from, Basalt Vista. John Ely told me that it would be done by now. This is the year that, by the first of the year, they will have all of the places built and occupied by homeowners. There's just a time frame process. The Board of County Commissioners, Pickens County, will be off that board sometime in the fall. So if somebody would step in, then it's a homeowners meeting, we do them virtually, and it's usually once every month.
Ooh, that's a lot.
Well, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's 4 times a year, but then they have issues that come up, and you can handle them just through emails for the most part.
Are you
Gail Schwartz is the chairman.
required to be there for a quorum? Are you as a voting member
Yeah,
of there?
I'm their board of the homeowners board,
Right.
executive board.
And you're looking to get off of that?
Yes. It's one of the things
Right.
that I'm trying to wean down on for this next year.
Okay.
I'll do that.
You'll do it? Okay, great.
Francie, good.
That's in Francie's
Good for
district,
you.
so,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
I was like, nobody's stepping up to fill that.
Oh, I was going to say, Francie, if you don't want to do it, I'll be your back.
There
I'll
you
be your
go, good
backup.
for you guys.
Ely was like, oh, you won't have to do anything. Well, that didn't turn out, because they were just starting to gear up,
Well,
so.
it sounds like there's gonna be maybe 4 more meetings and then we're.
Yeah, well,
out.
because we've pretty much done all the work this first year, setting up bylaws and policies and
Yeah.
insurance and budgets and property
Good
managers.
job, Patty.
So
All right.
I'm leaving you and hardly anything to do.
Steve, you good on Club 20?
Yeah, I'm good on there, and there's actually 3 Pickens County representatives. Rachel is the regular voting member, and she's also the secretary of the board there, and then me and a woman who works for the city of Aspen. But anybody could participate in it, and I would encourage, and Francie's expressed some interest.
No, I
in
have not.
a little-
I
Didn't
told you my ex-husband used to be with Club 20. I
Well, you- yeah, one
definitely
time
have
you were
not
asking
expressed
me about
interest
it.
in Club 20.
Okay.
You don't know, maybe you'll find a future husband at
Yeah,
Club
you
20.
never know. There are a lot of ranchers, Western Slope ranchers down there.
I'm not even looking for a dinner date.
But maybe a movie.
All right, TPR, Patty, you good?
Yeah, Brian Pettit and I and Dave Pechnitek talk about it, and we're hoping that this next year there'll be more money coming up, so we're hoping, we think there will be, so Brian and I and Dave are kind of, we touch base, so I don't go to all the meetings because they don't have them, and Brian will let me know if and when I'm needed, so I'm good.
Senior Council, Steve, you're good?
Yeah, I'm good there.
Forest Service, Greg and Francie?
Yeah, I think it kind of makes sense. Francie, I don't know how you
Yeah.
feel about that.
We
Just-
haven't done a whole lot.
Well, with Coal Basin coming online, we're probably going to be talking to them. So I'm fine
Water,
with that.
John Ely, West Elk Loop Scenic Byway. Francie, you good with that?
It is bizarre. I went to one dinner and
Well,
watched
that-
people get
see?
awards, and Dan Richardson and I looked at each other and said, "What is this?"
Sounds very
We had no
collegial.
idea what we were doing there. He was invited as the mayor of Carbondale, and
So
you know,
All right.
it was
I
just
was
plain weird.
wondering if, like, I serve on the SAPCA committee,
Uh-huh.
which is going to sunset next fall. We're going into our last year now, but then you're on the tax thing, and maybe those should be put on this list. I don't know if
Just
they're sort of
as
appointments.
other appointments
They're
not
appointed by the
required
governor.
Yeah,
in the
so
legislature.
I think we should list those, not that, I mean, we're not gonna appoint somebody else to it, but it kind of helps to see what everybody's
Sure.
doing.
And could you tell me what that committee is again?
What's it?
It's the senior,
So SAPCA, that's the acronym, Strategic Action Planning Group on Aging.
Well, Kelly and I both participate, if we start listing all this, it's gonna be a volume.
You know, I was like, what else am I on? I was like,
Yeah, Kelly and I both participate in some ways with the basalt, with the childcare Mid-Valley with under Shirley Ritter.
Can we do some horse trading here? Like, I'll trade you that one if you'll take this
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, you want the task force on tax policy?
I don't think I'd be the one for that.
Did you do that yesterday?
I did, yes.
It was very fun, her son was very entertaining.
Oh, my God.
All right, we still have
So
some more to
there's a
go.
funny story there.
One more item, and that's your discretionary fund.
Yes.
And that, I didn't prepare a spreadsheet because you've got the full 10,000. You had a Redstone marketing item that came out of strategic initiatives. And the Pick and Iron, Connie has confirmed that that could come out of the general fund.
So we don't have a list of what we've contributed to in the past.
No, I'm sorry, I don't have
Yeah.
that. Would you?
Well, we usually look at what nonprofits we've given to in the past.
Okay.
Yeah, do we want to wait? Does the board care, or does the
I
board
was
have
gonna,
ideas?
there was one I was gonna advocate for. I do happen to know that the demand for the Wildlife Rehab Center, which the name will come to me, it's the
Oh, the lady?
Schneegas Wildlife.
Schneegi.
They submitted a grant application this year. I think it was for 5,000 maybe. I know their need is much greater, and I asked her, I actually had a chance to talk to her, and her name is escaping me, Nancy
Nancy.
Limbach. And she said, well, I couldn't make another application. I couldn't update my application because my husband has been in the hospital.
Oh,
You
yeah, I
know,
remember
and
that.
it was like, she's just got her head down and she's going, and her assistant just was overworked. So anyway, they would certainly benefit from more. The demand in terms of wildlife rehab has never been greater. I would opt to double their amount or increase it significantly, and I know the money'd be well used, and they'd provide us with the metrics and then the reports on how it got used. But you know, whenever I talk to her, he goes, yeah, I just got 3 new bears in, and I've got 6 eagles, and I've got 2 mountain lion cubs, and we're trying to feed them. You know, it's
Well,
like this.
Yeah, I think what she does is amazing, but do we have
Yeah.
any human nonprofits that are, because still coming out of the pandemic,
Well,
that are in
Lift
need
Up.
of like
I have
food
an idea
bags?
for
or-
My next one would just be Lift Up Farm to Food Pantry, which
Yeah,
supports farmers and food pantries.
Why don't we
I
split
would
it?
support that. I also would propose, Manaus has a fund for those who can't access, government COVID funds because of documented status. And so it's also part of like a savings, program for people.
Why don't we do 2,500
You mean
to
Barbara
Nancy?
Freeman's thing?
2,500 to Lift Up,
Yeah, I mean,
2,500 to the Manaus
she's part of
Foundation, that gives us another 2,500.
Yeah.
John, homeless shelter, do you have any?
You know, the other place, and I want to talk to Nan, that I know the school resource center is actually providing a lot of direct services to families, and this time of year especially, there's always a significant need around the holidays.
The
Done.
Family Resource Center, did you say?
Yeah.
In
That's it.
Coverdale?
Valley Guard, I think.
Well, there's Aspen, there's Roaring Fork Schools and Aspen Schools, but Aspen Schools is providing services beyond the school district boundaries.
Why don't we split it 4 ways between
Perfect.
those 4 and call it good?
I think that's perfect.
And the program in Charlotte is called the Manaus Emergency Fund.
Okay.
So
I
2,500,
Each.
Yeah.
2,500 to Nancy to the Wildlife
Nancy
Rescue.
Limbach, the Pauline Schneegas Wildlife
Yeah.
Rehabilitation Center, Lift Up Farm to Food Pantry.
Family Resource.
Manaus and the
Manaus.
Family Resource Center.
And is that Catherine Sands, the Family Resource Center?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, she
of,
does, she's amazing, as we've
Yeah.
recognized her. Didn't we
Nice
give her
Christmas gift
an
for
award?
each of those.
We gave her a whole bunch of meat earlier in the year.
That's
remember?
right, you were part of that, right. Yeah.
We're looking at adopting a family through there, so I know
Excellent.
they have need.
Okay,
Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to actually just to highlight a couple things about the appointments that I think we were bringing back. Let me see. There was 2 things, and I only have 1 on my notes.
Board
We were
of
gonna
Health?
find out more about the River District.
Yeah,
Right,
I'm
just
gonna
some
call
details about like
Andy
the
and-
timing of that and the formality of.
And we need somebody to
I'll call
accept the
Andy.
alternate for Board of Health.
Yes.
Yeah, so Steve and Kelly expressed an interest in alternate on Board of Health.
Hillary Henry.
Well, it's a light
The
load. The
Colorado
nice thing is
River.
it's a light load.
And on the CCI committees,
Yeah, we're gonna think about those.
you know, maybe we could split up the voting member on those if, now you were interested in the agriculture and the public.
And public lands.
Public
and-
lands?
Yeah. And the land use and natural resources, public lands, and the agriculture and wildlife.
So I mean, it'd be okay if we make Francie the voting member on those, and then, I mean, if you can't be at the meeting, whoever is there can vote on it, so, but we only get one vote per county.
We're gonna have 3 people
There's
involved
not
with
that
CC.
much to vote on. but-
No, I think he's just switching roles with me. That's all you're saying, right? Switch.
Yeah, but generally, we only have 2 people who are direct, we've already had 3 people directly involved with
Yeah.
CCI, so
Yeah. So this would be switching Francie to the voting.
whatever
role.
whatever works
For
best for
those
you
three?
guys.
Correct.
Okay.
So
Charlotte,
public
you got those?
lands, agriculture and wildlife, and land use and natural resources. Did I get that right?
Sure, that'd be
And
all right.
Francie's doing basalt this, and I will get that through with Gil Schwartz and her.
And then Kelly,
And you can always call me.
if there's one you would want to be the voting
Gail's easy.
person on, but
She made,
I
Yeah,
understand if
I'll
you
think
don't
about
want
that.
to,
She made
if you
right.
just wanted to be alternate.
No, sure, I'll think
She may be
about that. And we'll talk about it again next month, right?
okay. All right,
All right, everybody, I think we've
Tomorrow,
reached the
noon.
end. Thank you. We will see everybody again tomorrow at noon for our last regular session of the year of 2021, which starts in this room at noon.
and today is our last work session of
But
the
we
year.
have exec session at 10, correct?
Tomorrow?
This is the
No.
last work session of the year?
No.
You're
No?
telling me
Yeah.
that we're into we're at the end
That's
of the
it?
year?
Yeah,
But if you want to come in
All right.
at 10, I'll probably be here.
thank you, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks,
10 on the-
Skylar, thanks Grassroots for your
Thank
tech
you.
support.
Thank you, guys.
And if, my colleagues, if you have scarves, hats.